Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Member Hall.
Present.
Member Hardesty.
Present.
Member Comesañez.
Present.
Member Jones.
Present.
Member Rivero.
Present.
Member Cobian.
Present.
Member Torres.
Present.
Chair Font.
Present. Are there any requests for adjournments or postponements? Requests for adjournments or postponements? If so, please use the raised hand feature. I'd ask you to do so now. I see no raised hands. Please call the first case.
The time is now 6:18 p.m. The first item on tonight's agenda is ZBA-19-62, located at 2 Ogden Street, Block 570, Lot 57 in the North Ward. The applicant is Ogden Street Realty LLC. In the Newark River Public Access Redevelopment Plan area, the applicant proposes demolition of a 3-story structure and new construction of a 9-story, 190 residential unit building with 177 parking spaces. Applicant is seeking a D1 use variance and D6 variance for exceeding maximum building height. C variances for insufficient rear yard setback, exceeding maximum lot coverage, exceeding maximum impervious front and rear yard setbacks, insufficient front facade transparency, and insufficient off-street parking. Site plan approval is required. This application was approved on February 20th, 2020. The applicant is requesting 3 one-year extension.
This is application ZBA-19-62 to Ogden Street. Are there any members of the public that have an interest in this application? If so, please identify yourselves by using the raise hand feature. The raise hand feature is located at the bottom of your computer screen or mobile device. If you're on the telephone, you can alert us by pressing *9. I'd ask you to do so now. I see no raised hands. Counsel, your appearance for the record.
There's one raised hand.
Oh, there is one. I missed that. Who is that raised hand? Is that the iPhone?
Yes.
There is someone who is identified as iPhone. Last 4 numbers are 7952. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Hello.
Hi, do you have an interest in this application?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and you're appearing in what capacity? As an
a resident of Newark.
Are you objecting to this request for extension?
Yes, because I have a few questions in this regard.
Okay, so you have some questions. Okay, let's let counsel put her appearance on the record, and we'll let you ask your questions. Counsel, your appearance for the record, please.
Good evening, Jennifer Carrillo Perez, the law firm of Connell Foley on behalf of Ogden Group ML.
Ms. Perez?
So good evening. I'm here in lieu of Mr. Webster. We're seeking an extension on this project that's previously received approvals in 2020. The board memorialized it in September of 2020. They have not received any extensions. This would be the first set of extensions. Ogden purchased this property in 2022, and we are now working on some compliance items with respect to the water, sewer, and we're looking to finalize those in order for us to then proceed with this project. And so we're respectfully requesting that we receive the 3 one-year extensions permitted by law and order to provide ample time to address all of the outstanding items that were required as part of compliance.
Thank you. Are there any questions for counsel from the board? Questions for counsel from the board? Ma'am, you had some questions, and I'm sorry, I didn't ask your name.
Lisa Parker.
Ms. Parker, you have some questions regarding this request for extension?
Yes, I do. I'd like the attorney to clarify for me how is it that this project is asking for an extension when they purchased the property they're supposed to, within 18 months, do some type of development. I didn't hear anything about community engagement around this property that's going up that has less parking of spaces available. And what we hear time and time again at the council meetings is the North Ward is ridiculous with parking. And so I want to know, when did this person who purchased it in 2022, I believe I heard Ms. Perez say, but it was on the record since 2020. So we're talking about a 4-year span, and now you're asking for another extension. Explain to me what happened between 2020 and now that one, for community engagement to weigh in from the person that's doing this project from the community, and why didn't they do development before now?
So, Ms. Parker, if I may, and I'll let council answer, but I just think it's important to let you know that this is before this is before the board. The applicant is requesting an extension. Under the law, the applicant is permitted to extend approvals granted by this board. So this matter has been heard by the board. It was heard by the board in February of 2020. The board heard the application, approved the application, and the applicant is now just seeking to extend the approvals we gave. Now, what does that really mean? The approvals run with the land, as I understand, and what the applicant is doing, in essence, is requesting an extension. The extension would only seek to provide the applicant protection under the zoning ordinance that was in effect at the time that the board granted their application. So if there were zoning changes that put new restrictions on this, and the applicant did not have an extension approved, they would have to comply with new zoning requirements. So that's all this does. The matter has already been approved. Is that fair, counsel?
It is. Thank you.
Was I clear, Ms. Parker?
Fair enough. Thank you for that.
Oh, okay, Ms. Perez, if you have anything you want to add to this question?
No, I'd just like to say that there was a public meeting. There were supporters and objectives present at that time when it was approved, as you indicated. But I know Ms. Parker very well. She can feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to discuss the project.
Absolutely.
Great. Ms. Parker, I assume you know how to contact counsel?
Absolutely.
Great. Anything further, Ms. Parker?
Not on this item, no.
Okay. If there's nothing further from the public, and I see no raised hands, I saw no raised hands from the board, may I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Motion to extend Commissioner Hall. Who was the second?
Comesañas.
Comesañas, second. Call the roll, please.
Member Hall,
Yes.
Member Hardesty,
Yes.
Member Comesañas,
Yes.
Member Jones,
Yes.
Member Rivero,
Yes.
Member Cobian,
Yes.
Chair Alfont.
Yes. Your extension of 3 years has been approved.
Thank you.
Call the next case, please.
The time is now 6:27 p.m. The next item is a resolution para consideration of ZBA-21-62, ZBA 24-05, located at 300-302 Garside Street. In the R3 zone, the applicant 300 Garside Management LLC was denied on February 25th, 2022 for construction of a 6-story residential building with 40 dwelling units and 14 ground floor parking spaces. The applicant is currently proposing the construction of a 5-story residential building with 25 units.
The Board of Adjustment made the following findings of fact with respect to this property. It's located in Mount Pleasant's Lower Broadway neighborhood. The site is located on the western side of Garside Street. The total site area is approximately 6,934 square feet. The surrounding land uses consist of 2 and 3 family dwellings, a 6-story apartment building, a house of worship, and a vacant lot. Council, is your entire team that you'll need for at least this first part in? Might as well get everybody in.
I do not,
McDonough.
just Mr. McDonough. At this point, I believe I just need Mr. McDonough, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Let's bring Mr. McDonough in. This is application. This is a res judicata consideration of application ZBA-21-62, ZBA-24-05, 302 Garside Street. Are there any objectors present on this matter? If so, please use the raise hand feature at the bottom of your computer screen. If you're on a telephone, you can press *9 to do the same. Ms. Parker, do you have an interest in this matter?
No, not this project. I'm waiting for Warren Street.
Okay,
Thank you.
my pleasure. I see no raised hands. If there are any other persons with any other interest in this matter, please feel free to raise your hand. Counsel, your appearance for the record, please.
Good evening, Jennifer Carrillo Perez of Connell Foley on behalf of 300 Garside Management LLC, the owner of the property.
Okay. We have this matter down for res judicata. So let's address that first, Counsel.
As indicated by the board secretary, the applicant for you this evening, as we filed an application for site plan approval for the construction of a new 5-story residential building with 25 dwelling units. The project is 25 dwelling units. This is a 100% affordable project that's being proposed this evening. As an initial matter, this board entertained the application, an application for this property on December 14th, 2021, and denied said application for the development of a 6-story building that contained 40 residential units and was not an affordable project. This application that's before you this evening, that was filed in February of 2024, was made post the adoption of a new master plan, post the adoption of a new zoning code, and is significantly different than what was previously presented to this board in 2021. As this board is well aware, res judicata does not bar an applicant from making a second application seeking variance relief, which is entirely different and of lesser proportions than the first. And I will reference the Toll Brothers case versus Burlington County Board of Chosen Freeholders. In order for the doctrine of res judicata to be applicable, there are several elements that have to be satisfied that include that the project has to be substantially similar, the same parties are involved, that there's no substantial change in the application itself or any other conditions around the property, the adjudication of it, and that both applications must involve the same course of action, cause of action. And you are aware that this board, we are before you because this board has the discretion to proceed with an application and determine that res judicata would not apply. And that decision should not be overturned except in the rarest of circumstances. In this matter, in 2021, 300 Garside Management filed the application to construct a 6-story multifamily market rate project that consisted of 40 residential units and 14 off-street parking spaces. That property is located in the R3 zone. It is still the R3 zone, albeit it is different than what was at that time. The applicant is now seeking to construct a 100% affordable housing project that will be comprised of a 5-story building, 25 residential units and 18 off-street parking spaces. The first application that was previously considered a mid-rise was previously considered a mid-rise, which was not permitted in the R3 zone at that time, which thus required a D1 variance relief in addition to a D5 and bulk variance relief. Since that first application, the city ordinances were revised to alleviate some of the obstacles and burdens that developers were facing and homeowners in the city to construct larger residential developments in the city to accommodate the city's growing population as well as the need for affordable housing. Many of the aforementioned revisions to the zoning code directly impact this subject property and the application. By way of example, though the property is still situated in the R3 zone, a 5-story building is now classified as a less intrusive low-rise building rather than the mid-rise building, and is conditionally permitted in this R3 zone. As such, we are no longer seeking a D1, but rather a D3 variance. This office also notes that we also failed to meet only one of that 4 criteria that is outlined in the D3 conditional use requirements. And you'll hear from our professional, John McDonough, who's going to elaborate and provide a little bit more of an analysis with respect to this relief that we're requesting. Secondarily, and while we're still seeking a D5 density variance, what we are seeking here is a lesser number of units than was proposed. Again, 6 stories to 5 stories and 40 units to 25 units. So I'd like to now call Mr. McDonough, who is our planner and will be providing testimony in support of this request to be heard this evening, to be sworn in, please.
Thank you, Counsel. Mr. McDonough, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm the testimony about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name, give us your address in relationship to this application.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is John McDonough. My business address is 101 Gibraltar Drive, Parsippany, New Jersey, and I'm the project planner. That license is current and in good standing.
Counsel.
Great. Mr. McDonough, you've had an opportunity to review both the original application and the new application that was submitted this year. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you're familiar with the City of Newark's ordinances and the revised master plan, correct?
Correct.
Based on this issue of res judicata and your knowledge of the application, both the prior and the one that's pending with the city as we speak, can you just please provide an overview with respect to the proposed changes?
Sure thing. And again, in its simplest form, the doctrine of res judicata simply looks at preventing boards from hearing the same application twice. The key ingredient in whether an application passes res judicata or not is whether there have been substantial changes from the prior application that the board may have acted on. Here, I see 5 key changes between the denied application from back in 2021-22 and the current application that's now before the board. Number 1, the zoning has changed. The prior application was again decided back in 2021-22. The new zoning came into effect around November 2023, which changed the requirements for this particular site. Number 2, the use itself has changed. The new zoning changes changed the use from a prohibited use to a conditional use. That's the whole discussion that council just gave you regarding a low rise versus a mid rise, which is now a permitted conditional use in the R3 zone district. Substantial change number 3, the plan itself has changed. The height has been reduced from 6 stories down to 5 stories, and the overall density has been reduced from 40 units to 25 units. The overall parking ratio has been improved over that which was previously acted upon by the board. Number 4, the nature of the relief that the applicant is asking the board to move on has changed. We had a little bit of alphabet soup there. We no longer need a D1 variance, which is the hardest variance to get, but we now need a D3 variance. D1 is a use that's wholly prohibited from a zone district. D3 variance is something that is permitted in the zone with some conditions hooked to it. So it's a lesser, more relaxed test than what the board ordinarily hears with D1 use relief. And then finally, the test has changed. We're now dealing with an inherently beneficial use in that this is proposed as a 100% affordable project. The stricter Medici standard no longer applies, and all those enhanced proofs that the board often hears. It's a much simpler test under the SECA standard. It's a 4-part test, and if we get there, we'll walk the board through it. But I think those are the 5 key changes with respect to this application and the prior. The zoning, the use, the plan, the relief, and the test have all changed. Therefore, I think the application passes res judicata, and the board can hear this new application.
Council, anything further from this witness?
Nothing further from Mr. McDonough.
Are there questions from the board for the planner? And this is the only person you're going to call as to the res judicata, council? Is that correct?
Correct.
Commissioner Riviera, did you have a question?
Oh, said something. Well, no, I do not. Sorry, thought I was muted.
No. Any questions from the board regarding for the planner? Mr. Hazel.
Yes. If I may,
Mr. Hazel, let's just to be safe, let's swear you in. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony about to provide will be truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please give us your name and your title for the record.
Gerard Hazel, board planner.
Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify if I misheard, or just to clarify that council mentioned before that there was just one of the conditional use requirements that was not being met. By my count, it's 2. Am I incorrect? Or?
I did not want to go into those merits. I assume that would be during the application itself. We still believe it's the use. I think the main issue is that we're not seeking a D1, it's a D3. But we can go into the analysis, Mr. Hazel, and clarify should the board be inclined to grant us to proceed this evening.
Okay. Pursuant to section 4162-25, there are 5 conditional use standards.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, my understanding, looking at it, it's clearly there are 2 of them that right off they don't meet. I'm not sure how the change in whether it's a D1 or D2 satisfies any of those.
No, I understand. And if I can, if you want to have a question for Mr. McDonough, where I can provide additional commentary. Mr.
Okay. My question is, of the 4 standards for the conditional use standards, how many of them does this application, as it now stands, not meet?
Yeah, Mr. McDonough. That's
I can take that, and for what it's worth, I agree 100% with Mr. Hazel. There are 2 deviations from the conditional use standards. There's sort of an overlap because one of the conditional use standards are density. So we have interrelated, more spaghetti, more alphabet soup, D3 and D5 here for the board. Conditional and density.
So I'm a little slow tonight. Just to make sure I'm clear. Mr. Hazel, what you're suggesting is that there are 2 D3, there are 2 conditions that are not met in this application. Is that your point?
Yes.
And that is?
The low-rise multifamily dwellings in the R3 zone, which this is, shall be located on corner lots, which this is not located on a corner lot, and a minimum of 500 square feet of lot area per dwelling unit shall be provided, and this application does not provide that.
Okay. Thank you. Anything further, Mr. Hayes?
No, I'm good for that.
So I recall this application. I think I spoke on this application. It was a 6-story. At the time, there was the height was not permitted. Also, am I remembering that correctly?
Mr. Chairman, it was interrelated because the way the city regulates is that is by building type, and once you establish that the use doesn't conform, the standards for that building type applied. In effect, in actuality, it was for excessive height because we were asking for relief for a use that was higher than that which is contemplated in the zone. I hope it answers the question.
Right, and is that gone now?
That is gone now. Yes, 5-story building. It's an important point, I think, for the board, is that there's no height relief being requested here whatsoever, interrelated to the use or purely from a height standpoint. 5 stories are allowed in this zone district.
So even though this isn't a corner lot, the height is not a concern.
The height is not, in my opinion, is not a variance. You can fold that into what Mr. Hazel said, that this use is permitted in the zone, but only on corner lots.
Right. So, Mr. Hazel, do you agree with that? That even though this is not a corner lot, the height is not a concern any longer, and we're 1 story less now.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a 1 story less. That's the original application was 6. This is 5, and what Mr. McDonough is indicating is that since this building is now permitted as a conditional use, it must meet the conditions to be there. That the height is not called out anymore as a separate variance in terms of being too tall at 5 stories. However, as I always caution in my reports, when applicants are looking at the individual bulk standards for the building types, they should also keep in mind, even though according to the building type, it means say a mid-rise building can be up to 8 stories, right? But if that building itself is in an area that is not permitted, the height and everything else relating to it basically is called into question. So that in this instance, while for a low-rise building, 5 stories is not considered, it's permitted. You have to keep in mind that this building itself is not permitted on the site in which is being proposed. So you have to kind of balance that out in your mind. While it's okay for a low-rise building, low-rise buildings are not permitted on this site.
Okay, and Mr. McDonough, I know you discussed this before, but am I correct? Do I recall your testimony correctly that the buildings, this is almost in the middle of the block, as I recalled, not on a corner, and the buildings around there are, was it 2 and 3 story buildings?
I can show you that, Mr. Chairman, when we get there. It's actually 1 lot removed from the.
I'm asking, so I think we're
there. So,
Yeah.
Mr. McDonough, please.
Bear with me. I'll get that up on the screen here. Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, I'll mark this as A1 for the board.
Thank you. And if you could just tell us what this is, so marked.
Okay, it's going to be 7 slides, Mr. Chairman. I'll go through them briefly for the board. I can come back to anything, but it's 2 tax lots. We've got frontage on Garside Street near the north end of Garside over by 2nd Avenue. So again, 1 lot removed from the corner, and this lot you'll see is a parking lot. So really this is going to be the last building in the chain of buildings on the street. I call it an end cap. It's like a corner lot, but it's not a corner lot. It's a vacant lot.
Well, it's not like a corner lot. It's not a corner lot.
It's not a corner lot.
What that means? It's like a corner lot, but it's not a corner lot.
There isn't. I agree.
That's like double speak. That's not getting into the double speak. I get flashbacks to the Vietnam era.
Oh no.
And this just shows the land use categories. Now, this was done originally in 2021 when we were last here. We've got a parking lot adjacent. The subject are these 2 vacant lots. At the time, 2 lots removed was a vacant lot, which, as you'll see when I show you the aerials, is now infilled with a 4-story building. And then you can see these larger apartment buildings, which are uphill of the subject site and are 6 stories that sort of loom over the property when you see it from the ground level.
That's the next block, right?
That's the next street up. And then we're here in the R3 zone district, right next to the R5 zone district, which is a zone that would now allow for mid-rises up to 8 stories and 96 feet high. And you can see that has somewhat materialized on the lots immediately adjacent. So here's a view of the property. I should have updated this. I apologize. This was actually taken today. This is what the site looks like now. The site is this open lot, this vacant lot. You've got two 4-story buildings immediately adjacent to the south, and then those smaller buildings that you were talking about, Mr. Chairman, start to work their way to the south. This is what I was saying about, it's sort of the last
So the
building.
area then is 3 and 4-story buildings, right?
Well, if we look on all 4 sides, there's a mix of influences on this site. On the back side,
I'm not going to the next street. This street, Garside, it's 4-story, right adjacent to 2 4-stories. Those are new. Those are new, right?
the one, well, here, I'll flip the next one. Shows what we saw in 2021. This is actually from 3 or 4 years ago. That one lot did not have a new building on it, and now it does. But this one immediately adjacent was there in 2021. And then this sort of just goes towards my comment about the influence that these larger buildings have on the
No,
subject.
I get the larger building on the next block influence. You don't have to push it anymore. It's very clear. You made that point. I'm looking at this is about Garside, and there are 4-story buildings right adjacent to it. And you're now asking, you're down from 6 to 5. So this would be, if you're on that corner lot, you wouldn't even be here, right? If you had the parking,
This would be
you'd be in front of the planning board, probably.
I think we would still need the density relief. I'll defer to Mr. Hazel. I see him nodding his head yes. I think we would still be back here for density.
Okay, has the density changed from the original? Well,
the proposed density obviously has gone down from 40 units to 25 units. I believe the zoning requirement, again, this is for conditional use, which this was not before, is now 500 square feet of lot area per dwelling unit, which in my calculation means you would be allowed to have 13 units on the site. The applicant's asking the board to move on 25.
Okay. And if you know, Mr. McDonough, the other thing that all the bulk variances are basically the same, right? Except for the type and the building type, lot area, and width. Is that fair to say?
Yes, there's setback relief on all 4 sides so that we can effectuate parking. And then there's the interrelated building coverage and lot coverage, which we had before.
Those are all then, except for those things, they're all the same, right?
Right, and I'll also point out there's parking relief here. Obviously, the requirement has gone down with fewer units. There are 14 spaces proposed. Depending on how you apply the EV credits, there could be 18 spaces proposed or fewer spaces required. I tend to drop the requirement and keep the actual, but either way, I have 14 proposed, 21 required here. We do have a traffic expert.
And then, Mr. McDonough, you noted that this is an inherently beneficial use. I'm assuming that's based on the representation that this is a 100% affordable building. Is that correct?
That's correct. And
what does that mean, 100% affordable?
Well, I can defer to council. It's certainly going to meet the affordability index. I believe at least 30% of the units are going to.
Yeah, I apologize, Mr. Chairman. Just to be clear, I'm sorry. The applicant here has received an Affordable Housing Trust Fund grant. What that means is it's 100% affordable. 50% of those units will be between 30 to 50% AMI. That's
Who's
very
the grant from?
The Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
And has that closed?
Not yet. We have some stipulations like site plan approval. So 50% of the units will be between 30 to 50% AMI, and the other 50% are at 60% AMI. So this entire project will be 60% or less.
If that grant closes, right?
We are in receipt of the grant pending this approval. Correct.
Right. Okay. I have no further questions. Anybody have anyone on the board have any questions?
I do.
Yes, Commissioner Riviera.
Kind of repeating the question you asked a little bit in regards to if this was at a corner, understand density will still be there. But that corner lot is much bigger than yours, right? If they were to try to build 25 or 30 or 40 there, would they just be allowed to build that then? If you're able to tell me, Mr. Madonna.
Yeah, Mr. McDonough.
Yeah, I could probably do the calculation, Commissioner, but I think factually, yes, that corner, the actual corner lot is larger than the subject. That might be, we have two 30 footers, and yeah, I think it's self-evident.
Too much. Thank you. Thank you. That's all I have. That's all I want to ask.
Are there any further questions from the board? Further questions from the board? Anything further, council?
Yeah, if I can just summarize, I'd like to just state res judicata is applied very sparingly, and when an application is denied, and the rule of res judicata does not bar the making of the application or for modification or enlargement of one that was already granted. So here we are significantly demonstrating that there's been some change, and the board, in making its determination as to whether it applies, your analysis should be construed liberally in favor of the applicant pursuant to Russell District's Board of Adjustment for Tenafly. Specifically in this case, I'd just like to note that, we indicated the use based on the zoning change is now a conditionally permitted. We had a reduction in the building height size. We have a reduction in the number of units that was being proposed. There has been a change in some of the variances, the bulk variances that were noted, and you can refer to Mr. Hazel's report. He does a great chart that does a little analysis for you with respect to those variances. The building has been redesigned, and more importantly, at least for the initiatives that the city has been pushing, this project's going to be 100% affordable. And so it's important to note that those changes, as well as the seminal case on this issue, which is the Russell case I indicated, and in that case, the Supreme Court found that the submittal of new plans for an increase of 5 feet in a setback versus 6% decrease in lot coverage, along with some additional minor changes, were sufficient to meet that standard. And so I believe that what we've presented this evening, the number of changes to the design, the fact that the building has been is located within a zone that, albeit remains the same, the code itself has changed and is now a 100% affordable project, warrants the relief that we're requesting, and that we should proceed this evening with the application. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now in discussion. May I have discussion from the board? Commissioner Hall.
I remember this application. I remember the concern was it project was just too big in that space. But the question is right now, are there changes? Yes. The one that jumps out at me is 100% affordable, and of course, I like that. But came down a story, maybe that will make a difference in how we view it. We looked at it. It went from 40 apartments to 25. They're doing 18 Oak Street parking, I believe. I'm of the mind to let them proceed as this being a different application and see where we go from there. Yes, I will.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. Commissioner Riviera.
I'm going to follow up with Commissioner Hall. I don't remember the application so well, but to me, looking at these numbers, it seems like a significant change that we should consider listening to it again. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Riviera. Commissioner Hardesty.
I'll agree. I won't be repetitive. I'd like to hear it. I'd like to hear the case.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Yeah, I think this is real close, but I'm willing to hear the application. I'm not sure if the fact that it's 100% affordable, although however wonderful that may be, I'm not sure that affects the res judicata determination. But there are some changes. I'm not sure if they're significant, but it's close enough that I'm willing to allow this to proceed. So, can we take a vote? May I have a motion? A motion to not apply res judicata. I don't think it's really necessary, but I think it'll be good for the record. So can I have a motion that res judicata does not apply here?
Motion.
I have a motion
That does not apply.
that res judicata does not
Second.
apply. Commissioner Riviera, second. Commissioner, second, Commissioner Horace, call the roll, please.
Member Hall,
Yes.
Member Hardesty,
Yes.
Member Comesañas,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, Member Comesañas had to recuse himself from this application.
Oh, thank you.
Member Jones, Member Rivera,
Yes.
Member Cobian,
Yes.
Vice Chair Munford, Chair Affleck.
Yes. That's 6 votes yes, so that motion passes. Let's now move to the application in chief, if I may so call it that. And just so the record is straight, let's put the new application in the record. Ms. Mejia?
Yes, the time is now 6:58 p.m. The application is ZBA-24-05, located at 300-302 Garside Street, Block 559, Lot 10.02 and 10.03 in the North Ward. The applicant is 300 Garside Management LLC. In the R3 zone, the applicant proposes the development of a new 5-story residential building with 25 dwelling units. Applicant is seeking a D3 variance to permit low-rise multifamily on interior lots and a D5 variance for insufficient lot area per dwelling and C variances for insufficient front yard setback, insufficient side yard setback, insufficient rear yard setback, exceeding maximum coverage by building, exceeding maximum impervious coverage, insufficient active ground floor requirement, insufficient off-street parking, and insufficient on-site trees. Site plan approval is required.
Counsel, your appearance for the record, please.
Good evening, Jennifer Carrillo Perez of Common Foley on behalf of 300 Garside Management LLC.
Thank you. And this is application ZBA-24-05, 300-302 Garside Street. Are there any objectors here on this matter? If so, please identify yourself, by raising your hand. You can do that by using the raise hand feature at the bottom of your computer screen. If you're on the phone, you can press star 9 to do so. I'd ask you to do that now. I see no raised hands. Counsel?
Okay. Well, good evening and thank you again. As the board secretary had indicated, the application before you this evening is for site plan approval and variance relief for the construction of a 5-story residential building containing 25 dwelling units that will be 100% affordable and the equivalent of, I believe it's 19 parking spaces. I think there was some distinction between the two board reports, but we'll go with associated parking. Specifically, this building will contain parking, lobby, elevator space, stairwell, as well as the residential units that will consist of 1s, 2s, and 3 bedrooms. Every unit will be ADA compatible. The project, as I previously indicated, will be 100% affordable to persons of low and moderate income. The applicant here is pursuing and has applied for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund that will require approval from this board in order to proceed. The income breakdown for that is 50% of units will be between 30 and 50% area median income. I believe it's about 50 to 51% of that, and 50% approximately will be at 60% of area median income. In connection to this project, we're seeking variance relief for a D3, the conditional use variance to permit the low-rise multifamily building on the interior lot, as well as a D5 density variance and the C variances that were noted by Ms. Mejia. As a result of what I indicated for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund grant, we do have a minor modification to the breakdown of units, 1s, 2s, and 3s. You'll hear that presentation when spoken by our project architect. So I just want to note that for the record, that will be an exhibit here too, and that is simply the result of the programmatic guidelines with respect to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund grant, as well as an improvement to the tenant laundry area. We have, in support of this application, you are going to hear from Mr. Bahman Izagmir, who is our civil engineer, Mr. Connor Hughes, the traffic engineer who prepared the traffic study, Mr. George Fernandez, the project architect, as well as Mr. John McDonough. We do have representatives here from 300 Garside Management should there be specific questions that arise that warrant their responses. I'd like to note before the record, before we begin, that we did receive the 3 reports from the city. The planner's report was provided to us this morning. It's dated incorrectly, and so it's dated May 28th, 2023. I'm sure it's a typo on the year, Mr. Hazel. It might be May 30th of 2024. A memorandum from the Department of Engineering dated April 23rd, 2024, and the memorandum from the Department of Water, Sewer, Utilities dated May 28th, 2024. And our professionals will stipulate during the testimony that the applicant will work to satisfy those conditions and address, I believe, one of the revisions that Mr. Trafficante noted via email to us that was inapplicable to this particular project. So it was a typo in that report. So if I can.
Right before you do that, just to be clear, as a condition of approval, your applicant agrees to comply with all conditions set forth in the by the Department of Engineering. Is that correct?
Correct, with the exception of that item.
Which item specifically?
It was a typographical error in the report, and it was not even related to our site. I have to just bring up the report. I apologize. Mr. Trafficante, I believe, sent Ms. Mejia and myself an email with a revision on that. I apologize, Mr. Chair. Let me just pull up the exact reference for you.
That's okay. While you're looking for that, I see Ms. Alston Singleton. Did you have your hand raised, ma'am?
Yes.
Are you an objector on this application, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay, let the record reflect that there is one objector here. Ms. Alston Singleton, here's how we'll proceed. Council will call witnesses. They will give their testimony. When they are finished, the board has a chance to ask questions. When the board's questions are done, I will give you a chance to ask questions. When all the witnesses are done and council has no more witnesses, you'll have an opportunity to make a statement. Council will then make a statement. And that's how we'll proceed. Is that okay, Ms. Singleton?
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Council?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the item itself is under section 1, under general, Roman numeral 4.
Thank you. So as a condition of approval, your applicant will agree to comply with all conditions except that in section 1, Roman numeral 4.
Correct.
The engineering report. What about the water and sewer report?
Agreed, the same. We will agree.
So, as a condition of approval, you agree to comply with all conditions set forth therein. And yes. Council, as a condition of approval, will your applicant agree to make this project 100% affordable as you so noted in the record, whether the loan closes with affordable housing or not?
I apologize. On my end, you skipped in the middle. I apologize.
Whether the affordable housing loan closes or not, despite that, will your applicant agree to make this project, keep this project 100% affordable as you noted in the record?
I believe they need the subsidy to do that. So if you bear with me, I can get a response to that while we
okay. Let's get a response to that, because that will determine whether or not we can consider this as 100% affordable under the terms. Do you want to do that, or you want to move on with your first witness?
I believe yes, I'm agreeing to that condition, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And that condition is clear that whether the loan closes or not, the affordability loan closes or not, this will be a 100% affordable project as you set forth in the record, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And someone will probably be listing those again. Mm-hmm. All right, great. Let's proceed.
I'd also just like to note, I know you noted if there were any objectors. I believe we also have some community members in support of the application as well. I'm not sure if you want to ask that question before we proceed, but just want to.
Would you like me to ask that question, Council?
It would be helpful. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Are there persons here who are in favor of this application? If so, please identify yourself by raising your hand. And please keep your hand raised. Okay, let the record reflect that there are 3 raised hands. Do we need those persons to join the panel yet, Ms. Carrillo?
I don't believe so.
Okay, if those persons have at any time that is screen name, you know what? Let's just bring them in. Let's bring them in. Make it easy. So I'm going to bring those 3 persons in as Ms. Alston Singleton. If you have questions, you'll have the opportunity to ask. If you don't have questions, that's fine also. But I want to make sure everybody has a chance that has an interest. And Council.
Thank you. Mr. Abaman Azadmir.
Mr. Azadmir, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Azadmir, please state your name, your address, and relationship to this application.
Baman Azadmir. I'm the site civil engineer for the project.
Thank you. Council?
Mr. Azadmir, can you just...
And I'm sorry. Mr. Azadmir, is your engineering license in the state of New Jersey in full force and effect?
Yes, it is.
Mr. Azadmir is well known to this board. We'll accept him as an expert in the field of engineering. Council?
I appreciate
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Azadmir, you prepared the plans that were submitted as part of this application, correct?
Yes.
And having reviewed all the zoning ordinances, you prepared them and are prepared this evening to walk the board through the proposed site conditions and the civil set. Is that correct?
That's correct.
If you can, through a share screen, please provide us an overview with respect to the existing conditions of the property and then the proposed project.
Sure. We're going to share the site plan with the board and the public. So as you can see, the site is located on the westerly side of the Garside. Is the second lot in from 2nd Avenue. The site measures 70 feet by 100. So as it was discussed before, we are proposing to have 14 physical parking spaces on the ground floor. That translates into 18 or 19, depending on how we calculate the bonuses and the credits for the parking. But I believe it's about 19 based on the auto share and EV spaces that we are providing. And the ground floor also contains trash area, a bike rack, as well as an elevator, 2 staircases, and an overhead door that provides with a driveway, with a 20 feet wide driveway that provides access to the site. So as you approach the building going west from Garside, you will have parking spaces toward the south or to your left, and to the north or to your right. And as I said, there are 14 parking spaces, and then you will have access through ADA accessible door to the lobby that you can then take the elevator or the staircase to go up to the desired floor. The building consists of 5 floors with 25 units. So we are short with parking. In terms of the variances, I think I will refer that to John McDonough, who will talk about the C variances, the D variances, and so forth and so on. Now, the site is pretty much covered with the building, at least on the ground floor. And we require some variances for the impervious coverage, for building coverage. And we are replacing the sidewalk abutting the property as well as the curbing. And we are also proposing 2 trees in compliance with the city's shade tree planting requirements. And the details of the building itself will be discussed by my colleague, Mr. George Fernandez, the architect for the project. And the planning matters and variances will be discussed by John McDonough. We are also providing adequate lighting in the garage area by basically light fixtures in the ceiling of the garage. And we have provided the required entry-exit doors to the building. We are also proposing an underground detention system to handle the drainage from the roof of the building. So there is basically, this is a summary of the site plan. So not only we are providing a sufficient drainage system, but we are also providing lighting, parking to some extent, as well as some landscaping in the form of 2 trees on the sidewalk. Okay. So this will conclude my presentation of the site plan. If there are any questions by the board members or the public, I will be more than glad to try to answer them.
Council?
Mr. Zadmir, just wanting to follow up on a couple questions.
Sure.
You had an opportunity to review the engineering report that was circulated from the department dated April 23rd. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And you didn't have any issues with the revisions and the conditions that were noted in that report, correct?
That's correct, except that deletion of that section that we referred to earlier.
Great. There were some questions that were noted therein, specifically under the survey area, actually under the general area, with respect to the existing chain link fence. There is one on the common side yard and one on the front yard. Can you just discuss the disposition of that existing chain?
The chain link fences will be removed once the project is approved and construction is started.
Right. As well as I believe the retaining wall. There was also another additional comment regarding a block wall along the property, crosses over the south side yard property line of the property.
Yes, the retaining wall, if it's within our property, that will be removed because we will be installing a brand new wall in the back to support the garage, and there will be a complete new structural system for the proposed building.
And the results of the construction of the new retaining wall is a direct result of the grading of the property. Is that correct?
Yes, as you enter the property from east to going toward the last parking spot in the garage area, the property rises about 11 foot. Mm-hmm. So that will provide us a very nice topographic area to install a parking. So basically the parking garage will be at grade level in the front by the sidewalk, mm-hmm. but in the back it will have, it will go inside the ground by about 10 to 11 foot.
And you indicated during your testimony that we will comply with all of the lighting requirements consistent with the city ordinance. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then the last question I have pertains to the trees. We are proposing the landscaping, the street trees at the front of the property. However, we are seeking a variance with respect to the site trees. Is that correct?
Yes, because then the entire site is going to be covered by the parking garage. So really, there is no exposed area open to air, so we cannot provide any type of on-site trees, and we are asking for a design waiver or a variance.
Okay, and just we'd like to know for the record, as a result of that, we'd obviously would have to make a contribution to the tree fund before being inclined to grant approval to this application. I do not believe I have additional questions. Oh, one other. I apologize, Mr. Azad.
Sure.
Did review the memorandum from the Department of Water and Sewer, correct?
Yes,
And we had no issues with anything that was noted therein with respect to working with them and making revisions, additional testing, correct?
that's correct. We will work with both water and sewer, as well as Department of Engineering, to comply with those review comments.
Okay, great. Thank you. I have no additional questions for Mr. Zadmir.
Thank you. Mr. Traficante. Mr. Traficante, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name and your title for the record.
My name is Charles Traficante. I'm a principal engineer and a professional engineer. I'm in the employment of the City of Newark Department of Engineering. My license is active and in good standing with the State Board.
Mr. Traficante, do you need this plan?
No,
It's being shared? Okay.
not really. No. Mr. Dr. Izmir, the engineer's report to the board, just for clarification, there was 3 items listed under survey. Starts on
Yes.
page 2 and ends on page 3. Roman numerals 1, 2, and 3. Specifically, Roman numeral 3 on page 3. Survey shows an existing chain link fence and gate and a light pole that are all located in front of the subject site and within the public right of way for Garside Street. Applicant shall provide testimony to the board as to who this existing gate and light pole and fence belongs to. If they all belong to the applicant property owner of the subject lot, applicant shall provide testimony to the board as to what rules easements have been granted to the current property owner of the subject lots to allow this chain link fence, gate, and light pole to remain in the public right of way with Garside Street. No approvals easements exist. Engineering department recommends to the board the applicant be required to remove the existing fence, gate, and light pole from within the public right of way. Can you clarify for the record, doctor, that an existing light pole, is that to be removed? Does that belong to your client?
I'm not sure who installed that light pole, but definitely we'll discuss it with PSE&G, and we will definitely remove it along with those gates and the fences.
All right. Like what? And for the record, that retaining wall in the rear, that's to be removed and replaced at the property line?
That's correct.
And the fence that approaches over the common side yard property line with the adjoining lot.
Those fences will be removed.
All right. No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the engineer from the board? Questions for the engineer from the board? Mr. Zadmir, is there going to be any parking controls coming in and out of that parking area?
No parking controls. We are proposing 2 mirrors for traffic safety. And if it's required, we will also install a buzzer. But there is no control except at the garage door. So I think in order to reduce the amount of closing and opening of the door and providing remote controls to every tenant, maybe we will keep the garage door open during the day hours, and then we will shut it down automatically during the night. And then if people want to enter and exit during the night hours, they will have a remote control to the garage door.
Why shouldn't we be concerned about people speeding through in and out of the garage then?
I don't believe this will happen because you have parking on both sides and you're exiting, so you will come to a full stop at the driveway. And then
can you guarantee that everyone's going to do that, Mr. Bazad?
No, I cannot guarantee. I can only guarantee taxes.
What can you do?
Yeah.
What can you do to help guarantee that?
Okay, we will put definitely a stop sign there and a stop bar, and we are providing sufficient sight distance so that once they come to that full stop, they will look to their left, they will look to their right, and they could see if a car is approaching. And that will be sufficient in terms of such triangular for the cars to proceed making a right or left.
Mr. Zadmir and Mr. Chair, if I can just ask a follow-up question.
This is counsel speaking, Counsel Perez. Counsel?
Yes, I apologize. Yes, Mr. Zadmir, I believe in our last discussion, we indicated that the door would be closed just for security. But isn't it a possibility that once that we can install a light and once the door is being opened, that there will be a light and perhaps a sound just to address the concerns for safety given the sidewalk? Is that a possibility that can be?
Yeah, that's what I said at buzzer, because that's like a more common language that we use now.
Okay.
There will be a buzzer, and also there will be two mirrors. So you could basically see, the pedestrian could see the cars are approaching, and the buzzer also will go off. So it would alert the pedestrians on the sidewalks as well as the cars traveling in front of the garage door.
Great. And counsel, your applicant will agree to do this as a condition of approval?
Yes.
Mr. Azadmir,
Yes.
you're hiding the number of trees that you're not providing, but you told me many times how many you are providing. Tell me.
We're providing 2.
Yeah, I know, you said that over and over, but
Okay.
you never told me how many trees you're not providing. Now tell me that number.
And that number is
Why
based.
do I think it's more than 2?
Oh, it's more than 2. It's 70 divided by 25, so 3 trees, additional trees. So 2 plus 3, 5.
So you're sure?
We are obligated to provide 5.
And you're providing how many?
Only 2.
I know, I wanted you to say that one more time. So you're sure 3 trees, right?
Yes.
Okay, as a condition of approval, council, will you agree to work with the city arborist or an arborist chosen by our board planner to review this site and determine whether the required amount of trees can be planted, and only after that, if it's determined it cannot by our arborists and our board professionals, will you make the required, or your applicant make the required contribution to the city tree fund?
Yes.
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chairman, we don't really have sufficient frontage to plant additional trees.
Is that because this building basically takes up the whole site?
No, because we measure the frontage in front of the sidewalk or the curb, and this is a 70 foot. So we are putting 1 tree on each corner of the property, fronting the Garza Street. I'm sorry. If we had to put 1 more tree, we could only put 1 more tree if we space them exactly 35 feet, because the code requires the trees to be spaced 35 feet from each other.
But Mr. Zappa, I apologize, but I believe the chairman had indicated that we would work, and we agree to that, to work with the arborist, that should we be able to plant another, we will, and in the event, and only in the event that we cannot, will we contribute to the fund, and we are in agreement with that.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from the board for the architect? Commissioner Hall.
Yeah, did I hear him say that we're gonna put a stop bar in the parking lot? Is that what I heard?
That's correct, Mr. Hall.
Commissioner Hall, when you say stop bar, tell me what you're thinking about.
That's what I'm trying to figure out what it is. Something that actually the car has to stop before entering and exiting.
I think what they mean by a stop bar is a painted thick line on the pavement.
I don't know, Chairman. With clarity.
If I can, I believe Mr. Zadmir, what we agreed to on the record is that the door will be kept down There will be a line, as the chairman indicated, and when the door opens and closes, you've indicated we can install a buzzer, a light, and then there are 2 mirrors. So there will be, to address Commissioner Hall's question and concern, the door will be closed, and when it raises to allow the traffic in and out, there will be not only mirrors, but there will also be lights and noise to advise anyone walking that there will be a vehicle entering or exiting the lot. Is that correct?
Well,
That's
that
correct.
wasn't his testimony, though.
That was our agreement, I believe.
What he said, though, was that during the day, the door will be left open.
And I want to get to that too. So.
No, yes, but if I apologize, and if I wasn't clear, I believe in my follow-up.
Swear you in, counsel?
Oh, no, I'm going to ask him a question because I believe, Mr. Chair, and Mr. Zadmir, when I asked you a follow-up question, we indicated whether you would be able to keep the door down, and you indicated yes. Is that my understanding? The door can be kept down, not open, based on our discussion earlier, correct?
Yes, that's right.
So it's not intended that the garage
Basically, you have the option either to keep the door open or have it closed at all times.
But it will be closed at all times. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you indicated that you are able to install not only a light, but as well as a buzzer, as you indicated what the industry calls it. Is that's your direct quote with respect to a sound and an alert system for pedestrians, correct?
That's correct.
You also indicated you can install 2 mirrors, correct?
That's correct. One on each side of the garage door. And in order to answer the question about the stop bar, Mr. Chair is correct. It's a painted bar which measures about 12 feet, and it could be 12 inches wide or maximum of 24 inches wide as per manual on uniform traffic control devices. And it will be right behind the sidewalk before you cross the sidewalk and then enter the street.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm good with what I heard.
So, and thank you, Commissioner. So, counsel, then your applicant is agreeing to keep this door to the parking area operable so that it's closed and only opens to let cars in and out. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Any other?
Mr. Chair, so I'm clear. He is going to still put stop bar there. Is that what I heard?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions from the board for the engineer? Further questions for the engineer from the board? Seeing none, are there questions from members of the public for the engineer? Are there any questions for the engineer from members of the public? I see a hand raised, screen name Shay Coulter. Can you turn your camera on and unmute yourself? Screen name Shay Coulter. Hi. Do you have a question for the, well, could you first give us your name and address, please?
How you doing? Shay Coulter, 920 Broad Street, Newark, New Jersey.
Thank you, Mr. Coulter. Do you have a question for the engineer, sir?
Good evening, Mr. President. My question to him was on one of the variances that's being sought. How, with the front yard setback, were there any implications with the utilities in terms of the distance of the front yard to where the underwater utilities are going? And that was really my main question. And the second part was, did you get any pushback from the city fire department on access because the dwelling will hold more than 30 residents? So that was my question. Have we had not that it's about the variance around the front yard setback, did you get any pushback on utilities from that? And then the other part is the fire department. Have they given you any suggestions as far as the dwelling capacity increase? Thank you, Mr. Charles, and thank you for keeping the witnesses 100% transparent.
Thank you, Mr. Coulter. happy, interesting questions. I would just note that this board really has absolutely no power over that, those health and safety issues relating to the fire department, but that prior to any construction starting, that will all be looked at as part of the permit process. But if you can answer, Mr. Zadny, if you can.
Sure. In terms of utilities, as we already committed ourselves, we will work with Department of Engineering as well as Water and Sewer. There are no issues with the utilities. The main utilities are in the street in the front. So we will have lateral connections to the building. So there is no issue.
Thank you. Felicia Alston Singleton. Ms. Singleton, can you turn your camera on and unmute yourself? Can you give us your name and address, ma'am?
Felicia Austin Singleton, 152 12th Avenue.
Thank you, Ms. Alston Singleton. Your question for the engineer, please?
Yes, my question is when they're talking about the speed or what's going on in the underground garage, is there some way you could put a speed bump or like the when you hit on the side on the side to make sure that they know that they're actually going too fast? That's number one. Number two, when you put the picture up of parking and you're not providing adequate parking for the numbers of apartments that's there, already the picture that you took today looked like they were still inefficient, really parking for the people that's there already. It's like they're all taken up. So now you're going to add more people with not enough parking spaces and still limited amount of parking on the street. And I just want to say, just for the rest, because I want to make a statement, just please stop.
Ms. Alston Singleton, this is not the time for statements. You're going to get that chance, I promise. This is the time for questions.
Okay, then my last question would be, if you're coming in trying to cut what the city ordinance is giving, why are you now trying to cut the greenery thing and saying we're going to pay into? Is that a commitment that'll be transferred over in legal and with legal oversight from who? The zoning board or from the council? That's maybe Mr. Charles Avant can answer that one. Who would be over the oversight to see that they pay into this tree fund if they're only putting 2 and they're supposed to put 5? But why not put the 5? Is that going to mess your zoning up? I don't understand.
Mr. Zodner, if you can start to answer those questions.
And the contribution to the tree fund will be monitored by the zoning department. And as I testified before, there are really no space in the sidewalk to put additional trees. So that's why we are putting 2 trees.
Yeah, that's something that an arborist and your team and our team is going to look at.
That's correct.
So what we did, Ms. Alston Singleton, we made this a condition that they have to work with the arborist and our planner to look at this. If the arborist, the city arborist, or an arborist chosen by our planner determines that they in fact can't plant the trees that are required, and planting those trees are important, then the city has an ordinance which requires them to pay what some folks may consider a substantial amount into what's called the tree fund. Now, we can, I believe, and stop me, Mr. Hazel, if I'm not correct, we can make sure that this condition is complied with. Whether a tree is ever planted from that tree fund, we have no control. This board has no control. I hope that answers that question on the trees for you. Mr. Izadmir, the other question was, can't you put a speed bump or rumble strips instead of just the painted line on the ground? Is that correct, Ms. Hudson Singleton?
Yes.
The stop bar is basically to make everybody to obey the law. Stop
That,
before
that wasn't the question.
the
Ms.
garage.
Singleton asked, instead
Yes.
of a painted line called the stop bar, can you install a speed bump or a rumble strip? You know those.
We can install rumble strip in the middle of the garage aisle to warn the exiting cars or the entering cars to slow down. And we will do that.
So you agree to do that as a condition of approval?
Yes.
And that's in addition to the stop bar, is that correct?
In addition to the stop bar, one set of rumble strip inside the garage.
Right. Ms.
On
Austin,
on each side, on coming and going, because he said it was two ways to come and go in and out. So it should be on each side.
Yeah, it will be on both sides.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Ms. Parker, is that, I believe, Ms. Parker? Can you unmute yourself? Could you
Yes.
state your name and address for the record, ma'am?
Lisa Parker, 71.5 Boston Street, Newark, New Jersey. I'd just like to go back to the greenery piece of this, because a lot of these developers are putting these parking garages. However, they're not putting any type of green buffering to absorb all the toxins that they're putting into the environment. Now, while he's not putting 5 trees, is he planning to put any type of shrubbery around the corridors of this to put more greening? And it's going to impact those 4 stories units that are on that same block. I want him to answer that question. Are there plans to put more greening outside the perimeter and the corridors?
If you're aware of that, Mr. Zadmir.
Yes, we could put some shrubs and planters in between the trees, low high, so that they would not block the view of the exiting cars. So we would like to maintain a clear sight triangle, but we will definitely place some planters.
That's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you about shrubbery that are not in planters, but shrubbery that goes around the corridors of the property.
Is there room in the side yards for some landscaping, Mr. Zadmir?
They're not on the ground floor, no.
Is there room in the rear yard for landscaping?
No.
All right. I wonder, as a condition of approval, in addition to working with the arborist and our staff regarding to look at the tree planting, if the applicant will also agree to work with the arborist and the planner to attempt to find space around the perimeter of the property for landscaping. Is that acceptable? Is that what you're looking for, Ms. Parker?
Yes, absolutely.
Council, is that something that your applicant would agree to as a condition of approval?
To work with the arborist to identify space if some is available, yes.
To work with the arborist and the board planner?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. No, yes, Mr. Hazel, of course, yes.
Okay, as a condition, that condition has been accepted. Anything further, Ms. Parker?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions for the engineer from the public? Seeing none, council.
I'd like to call our traffic engineer, Mr. Connor Hughes.
Mr. Hayes, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name, give us your address, and your relationship to this application, please.
Certainly. My name is Connor Hughes. I am the traffic engineer hired by the applicant to prepare the traffic study for the project. Business address is 245 Main Street, Chester, New Jersey. That's for dynamic traffic.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Hughes. You've appeared before this board before, is that correct?
Yes, I have multiple times.
And is your engineering license in full force and effect in the state?
Yes, sir, it is.
We'll accept Mr. Hughes as an expert in the area of traffic engineering. Counsel?
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hughes, you prepared a traffic study as part of this application, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
And you have reviewed the city ordinances, and that application, that report was submitted to the city as part of this application, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Can you please provide the board with an overview with respect to the findings in your report as it relates to the parking that's being proposed and the deficiency, the variance that's being requested?
Certainly. So as mentioned, we did prepare and submit a traffic and parking study that's dated April 23rd of this year. The first part of that was establishing existing parking demands in the area by doing on-street parking counts in accordance with the city ordinance. So that's 2 weekdays, 7 to 10 a.m. and 6 to 11 p.m. We conducted those on Wednesday, March 20th and Thursday, March 21st of this year. And we also required Saturday and Sunday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday when we counted on March 23rd, and Sunday we counted on March 24th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Again, all these times in accordance with the required ordinance. So when we conduct the counts, we essentially establish how many cars are parked, what does the availability look like in the surrounding area. The ordinance requires us to look within 300 feet. We did go a little bit beyond that. We went up to about 500 feet just to kind of show what that looks like. Since 500 feet is still what we would consider a reasonable walking distance, even beyond that. But just to kind of go over those numbers. So within 300 feet during the weekday AM, we found anywhere from 0 to 23 spaces available. During the PM period, anywhere from 1 to 20 spaces. Saturday, anywhere from 1 to 10, and Sunday, anywhere from 5 to 15. Against that, that's within the 300 feet. And just to show going beyond that a little bit to 500 feet, during the weekday AM, we found anywhere from 28 to 89 spaces. 3 to 61 spaces with the consideration of the street cleaning restrictions that are in place from 8 a.m. to 12. And then weekday afternoon, anywhere from 4 to 42 spaces. During the overnight period, when our residential demand peaks, that's kind of the most pertinent time period for this particular use. Anywhere from 4 to 10 spaces available within that radius. And then Saturday, 11 to 29 spaces, and Sunday, 9 to 33 spaces. So just going that additional 200 feet beyond 300 shows that there is certainly some additional availability beyond the immediate vicinity of the actual site. And then just in terms of the trip generation real quick, being only 25 residential units, it's very minimal. Only 7 trips during the morning peak hour, 7 during the PM peak hour. Again, it's only 25 dwelling units. So that's why that trip generation is very much on the lower side. There's also a number of mass transit availability nearby. You have 2 stops just around the corner at Mount Prospect Ave and Second Ave. As well as the Bloomfield Ave light rail station. It's about a 15-minute walk to the west. So there's those accommodations as well that kind of help reduce the traffic and parking demand of the site. And just getting into the parking in terms of the requirements, ordinance requires 1 per unit, so 25 units, 25 spaces. There is a couple of credits that we get to account for, including 1 auto share space, which reduces the requirement by 2 spaces. And then we also have 3 EV spaces, 2 of which allow us to apply an additional credit of 2 spaces. So in total, it reduces the parking requirement from 25 to 21 spaces, whereas we're providing 14 on site. So as we mentioned, we are requesting a parking variance for that. We did take a look at some data just to see and make sure that the parking supply is going to be sufficient. The first item that we looked at is census data for vehicle occupancy per rental unit. We looked at the specific census tract in which the site is located. That equates to a requirement of 20 spaces. And then we also looked at national ITE data for affordable housing, and that requires 19 spaces. So still a little bit short in terms of the on-site parking supply when it relates to those standards. But again, with the on-street parking that we found, although it is, as one of the public members mentioned, pretty filled up already. There is some availability, and if you go beyond the immediate vicinity, there certainly is some availability to be had. So just with those aspects, as well as the fact that obviously it's an urban environment, like I said, you have the mass transit availability. There's alternate means of getting to and from, walking, biking, Uber, Lyft services, all that kind of stuff help to reduce that parking demand as well. And the majority of the parking is still accommodated on site. So even though we are requiring relief for the parking variance, the majority is still provided on site to be able to accommodate our residents. So just again, based on all those aspects, we do feel that the parking supply will be sufficient, and we feel that it can easily accommodate the site. So that pretty much sums it up. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Council, any questions for this witness?
None, thank you.
Are there questions from the board for the traffic engineer? Questions from the board for the traffic engineer? I see no questions from the board. Ms. Parker, do you have a question from the traffic engineer? And just once again, state your name and your address.
Lisa Parker, 71.5 Boston Street. The challenge that I have with most of these developers is they want to bring in a parking study expert. Now, when he referred to there were 29 or 21 parking spaces available adjacent, which means it's not in the general area of where people reside, right?
So is your question what his study area was?
Right. So what is adjacent, not far from where the project is? How many blocks away did you find extra parking? You're going to impede the parking. That was one question. You're going to impede
well, let's have him answer that question.
Okay.
Okay. So your question is how far out did our study area go?
Right.
It's about 2 blocks, I'd say, about 1.5 to 2 blocks.
Okay. The second thing is you're always relying on people using mass transit is what you referred to, right?
Mm-hmm.
People in Jersey, I'm a native New Yorker, people in Jersey drive everywhere. Most households have more than one car.
Mm-hmm.
So it's unfair to say that there'll be sufficient parking for the residents that exceed the number of parking spaces you have. And you're also going to impede on the residents that are already there to have parking.
Is there a question, Ms. Parker?
The question is, why aren't you providing more parking as part of this project to accommodate the people in the building? And it's unrealistic to say that sufficient parking will be available to the area once this project is built.
Well, I'm not sure Mr. Hughes can answer that question. Can you answer the question, Mr. Hughes?
I could provide you with the one piece of data that we looked at, which was the vehicle occupancy per unit for this particular area, this particular census tract, and it was 0.8 cars per unit, less than 1 car per unit. So that's kind of what helps us develop and determine what is a sufficient parking supply, and that's why I'm able to say that we do feel that it will be sufficient with the complement of some of the on-street parking.
And that was census data from when, Mr. Hughes?
Let me double check real quick, but it's within the last couple of years.
Mr. Chair, at the conclusion, I just have a couple follow-up questions. That's all.
Sure.
And I'd like to ask one more question.
Okay, let's let Mr. Hughes finish. Tell us you didn't use the 1890 census.
Yeah. No, it's from data between.
I was going there.
Yeah, it's from 2022.
From 2020. Okay. And Ms. Parker, I'm also from New York, but now a long time Jersey resident. And not only do we New Jerseyans drive everywhere, but we expect free parking when we get there.
Absolutely.
And those days are changing quickly, let me tell you. What is your next question, Ms. Parker?
So I'd like to know, was there an actual person out there conducting the study on the 2 days that you mentioned during the week and the 2 days that you mentioned on the weekend? And I'm not talking about a virtual Google trending like that. I'm talking about a live person doing a count.
Yep. So we absolutely did.
Use AI here, Mr. Hughes.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're not quite there yet. Probably one day, but no. As of right now, and for this particular project, we did have a physical person. They drove up and down the blocks and physically counted the cars that were parked there, and physically surveyed the area.
Any further questions, Ms. Parker?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
Austin Singleton. Questions for the traffic engineer?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
And
So
just,
my
once again, I know this gets crazy, but just once again, your name and address for the record.
Felicia Austin Singleton, 152 12th Avenue, Newark, New Jersey.
Thank you. Your question.
My question is, how long was the traffic study done? Was it done just the 2 days and the 2 weeks and that's it? Or was it done at a longer period of time? And did you say 2020 or 2022? Because 2020, that's 4 years ago. Things change rapidly in Newark. We got multiple developments going on. So we got an influx of people coming in. And how long did you stay out to do the traffic study? Because did you stay out from 8
Ms. Austin Singleton, we are
to 8 p.m. and vice versa? Because how
Yeah, your connection is.
You lost me?
Yeah, your connection is going unstable, but I think we got your question.
Yeah.
Mr. Hughes?
Yeah. So just to answer that last part of your question real quick, the counts were done over a 2 weekday period, and then there was 2 single weekends, Saturday and Sunday. And the weekday was from 7 in the morning till 10 in the morning, and then from 6 p.m. all the way till 11 p.m. So when most people would typically be home, as far as residents are concerned. And then as far as, what was the first part of your question? I'm sorry.
The census 2020?
Sorry. Yeah. So it was 2022 is the data that we pulled, the most recent.
And then when you said you project that it would be 1 car per household, did you screen the applicants that haven't applied already?
No, we have not. No.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Screen name Daniel. Can you turn your camera on and unmute yourself?
How you doing? How you doing, Mr. President? How you doing, board? So I have to show you guys something. I actually
once again, we'll need your name and address.
Okay, my name is Daniel. Last name is Spalding. I live at 162nd Ave, exactly a rock throw away from the actual site. We're here talking about parking, and I understand I'm also a New York resident that now lives inside New Jersey. And we're saying that the majority of the people in New Jersey drive also. But in this community here, the biggest thing is the affordable living, the bigger space, the cleaner apartment. I'm here in the community. I work with the kids in this community right here in the North Ward. That lot has been empty for a while, and they're planning on building affordable living with parking or non-parking. That's the biggest thing, especially with the economy being so high now.
Thank you, sir. Do you have a question though for the?
So the question, the main question was, why is it that a parking, whether on the street or inside of the building, is so important?
That's a good question.
More than the biggest part is affordable living.
Well, I don't know if Mr. Hughes can talk to the second part, but Mr. Hughes, why do we care about parking in these matters?
Certainly. Yeah, obviously parking is an important part. As we talked about and kind of mentioned, the streets are rather inundated, and that reflects in our counts. There was not a lot of availability, only a handful. So the fact that we are providing some parking on site does help alleviate, some of that. Obviously, with any development, there's going to be added cars. Any residential development, added residents, added cars. So it's just naturally going to happen as population growth happens and that kind of thing. But as far as parking goes, it's important, and it's important for quality of life too. So, we try to balance making sure that there's enough availability on site to support what's there, and that's what we feel like what we've done, especially it being affordable housing, is the major aspect of that as well. So,
thank you, Mr. Hughes.
Helps answer.
Thank you.
I hope that answers your question. But we're big into parking here in Jersey. Welcome to New Jersey. Are there any other questions for the traffic engineer? Jay Coulter.
Yes.
Hi. Just, again, your name and address, sir.
Yes, Che Coulter, 920 Broad Street.
Thank you. Your question for the traffic engineer, Mr. Coulter.
Yeah, the question for the traffic engineer was simple. Although he looks at traffic, and I saw the variances that the applicant is seeking from in relief from this board, but my question pointed to him is, and thank you, Mr. Connors, for coming on.
Thank you.
How are you measuring the accessibility for the Office of Emergency Management to access these new dwellings that are going above 25 residents? That was really my concern. Are you able to, is that something in your analysis as far as density, and as your board is passing these subjects and matters, that is something that you're able to look at, whether the street is a one-way or whatever directional pattern of traffic is going. There are some times where I'm against applications, but when it's new housing, adding units to the inventory we have in Newark, I'm in support of that. I grew up around construction, so it's ultimately putting somebody to work. But that's my question to you, Mr. Connor, Mr. Hughes, is in your observation, is there an element or component of Office of Emergency Management and their access to these buildings, particularly 25 resident dwellings and higher?
If you can answer, Mr. Hughes.
Sure. So I can't really speak to
that's outside of the normal scope, but you brought him on as a witness, so thank you.
Yeah. No, thanks for coming out. I can't really speak to, internally to the building, how that access works, but as far as like emergency vehicle access, we do certainly coordinate with the fire department and make sure that they're comfortable with everything. To my knowledge, there hasn't been any concerns raised by either, the fire department or any of the, the police department or anything like that. So, to my knowledge, we've developed the site and designed it in a way that will be safe for any emergency vehicles to be able to fight any sort of safety issues.
Thank you. Ms. Alston Single, I'm sorry, Vice Chair Monfort.
Mm-hmm. That's an accidental hand right there.
I'm sorry. Ms. Alston Singleton.
Can I ask another question, Chair?
I don't know who's speaking, but I just recognized Ms. Alston Singleton.
That's me.
Yes. Hi.
Yes.
Ms.
Can I ask another question?
Please.
So with the traffic study, did you compare, since you did this before in other parts of the city, do you take what you've done in this area and compare it to like other parts of the area, or did you, let me just say this, did you compare or do a traffic study on the adjacent streets? So I guess that's second, third, where they have those high raised buildings, because if they can't find a park on that street, they're going to park around the corner. So did you do a study on that street as well?
Yeah. So our our radius, our study radius did include 2nd Avenue, Summer Avenue, Mount Prospect Avenue. So like we went kind of like a block and a half over, counted all those streets. And if I remember right, the majority of the parking that we did find was kind of on those other blocks, not immediately on Garside, but those other adjacent streets.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions for the traffic engineer? Seeing none, council?
Great. I just had one or two just cleanup items for questions for Mr.
Briefly, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Hughes, just to confirm, when you conducted your traffic study, you completed it with industry standards on the current information that you have, correct?
Right, that's correct.
And what we looked at is we had a deficiency of approximately 6 given the equivalent parking spaces and the credits we received, correct?
Right, correct.
And based on your review and your traffic report using industry standards, those 6 spaces could be accommodated within the area within that 1.5, 2 block radius, correct?
Yes, correct.
And you indicated there's also public transportation, correct?
Right, yes, multiple.
And all right, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Council?
I'd like to call Mr. George Fernandez, who's our project architect.
Fernandez, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name, your address, and relationship to this application, please.
Jorge Fernandez, FERNANDES, registered architect.
Thank you. Mr. Fernandez, is your architectural license in the state of New Jersey in full force and effect?
Yes, it is.
We accept Mr. Fernandez, who's well known to this board, as an expert in the field of architecture. Council?
Thank you so much. Mr. Fernandez, you prepared the original plans that were submitted as part of this application, correct?
Yes.
And if you can, as I noted earlier, you were instructed based on your understanding from the applicant and the Affordable Housing Trust Fund that we needed to make some minor modifications just to the units identification, correct?
Correct.
But the project is still seeking 25 units, correct?
Yes, 25.
Right. Correct. Can you just provide the board with an overview of the project that's being proposed and the units themselves? How many 1s, 2s, and 3s?
Certainly. I would like to show a separate exhibit.
We will have this, Mr. Chair, as I believe this one's A1 since
Was this submitted to the board?
it was not. This is an exhibit.
Okay. We're going to mark this. What are we marking this, council?
This is A1. The other
A1 for the case in chief, right?
Correct.
And council, could you get a copy of this to the secretary as soon as possible?
Yes.
So
Mr. Fernandez, you haven't opened it.
Yeah.
It's not being shown?
No.
You got to click on it or something.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay,
Yep.
great. So the submitted plans, we were proposing on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floor plan, 6 units per floor. And then on the 5th floor plan, 7 units. Which gives you a total of 25 units. We would have 3 bedrooms, 19 2 bedrooms, and 3 1 bedrooms. However, based on the requirements of this development, we would need to provide more 3 bedrooms. In order for us to do that, I altered the 5th floor plan to still have 7 units. However, now we will have 2 3-bedroom apartments and 5 1-bedroom apartments. Therefore, we brought down the total unit count of 2 bedrooms to 15 from 19. Increased the 3-bedroom count from 3 to 5, and increased the 1-bedroom count from 3 to 5. It's still 25 units. We just reorganized the amount of 2 bedrooms and 1s and 3s. I would like to now show the 5th floor plan of the building, where we'll have 7 units, 2 3-bedroom and 5 1-bedroom units. We can start through the front of the building where we have a stair, an elevator, lobby. Then we have in the front the first 3-bedroom apartment. It's 1,000 square feet. It has a handicap accessible bathroom, 3 bedrooms, a living area, and kitchen. We followed that by a few 1-bedroom apartments, 600. They're each 600 square feet. They also have handicap accessible bathroom and kitchen, living area, dining area, and bedroom. In the rear, we have another stair and another 3-bedroom apartment, 1,000 square feet, again with its own. This one happens to have 2 bathrooms, a handicap accessible bathroom for the master bedroom, and another bathroom for the use of the other 2 bedrooms and the living areas. It has a kitchen and living and dining area. Now, what this floor also has, it has a laundry space. With this alteration, we were able to make the laundry space bigger. This is to be used by the tenants on all the floors. It is 217 square feet. It will have 12 washers and 12 dryers. They'll be stackable units. So as you can see, we have 6 of each. So each of these units stands for 2 machines. And we'll have a central holding station for the tenants, use of the tenants. I would like to now share my plans for the lower floor.
Mr. Fernandez, we just see, okay.
This is the 2nd through 4th floor layout. That we have 6 units, 1 3-bedroom, 5 2-bedrooms, and 0 1-bedrooms. The 3-bedroom unit is over here next to the rear stair. It is 1,100 square feet. It also has handicap accessible bathroom, 3 bedrooms, and a living space. The other apartments are 2-bedroom apartments. We have in the rear a 2-bedroom apartment, 800 square feet, with 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, and a living space. We have another 2-bedroom, 800 square feet, with 2 bedrooms and a handicap accessible bathroom and kitchen, as well as another 2-bedroom here, 850 square feet, and 2 in the front at 800 square feet. These are accessible from the first floor entry lobby, where we have a mail room where packages could be dropped off and kept for the tenants, and of course the elevator lobby that gives access to the building. I would like to go over the elevations of the building. We can start with the front. We have here the front. So it's 5 stories, 5-story building. We have the ground floor masonry and the masonry details going up to the 2nd through 5th floor. And then we have composite hardy trim, composite siding in the front. And we have some masonry swatches here to show the Ashbury velour from the Belden Brick Company that will be used for the facade of the building. We are complying with the glazing requirement, 35% glazing, as we try to incorporate as much windows as possible into these apartments. The height of the building is 54 foot 8 inches to the roof, and it is 64 8 inches to the top of the stair tower that is there for the purposes of maintenance to reach the rooftop, where there will be some solar panels to also provide some green technology into this development. The side elevations also have 20% glazing, as well as the rear, so that we're compliant with the glazing requirements on those elevations as well. And here the material will be vinyl siding, and by the Certainteed company. And again, the one thing to note with the elevations is the building appears larger on the front, but once you come to the rear of the property, it is essentially inside the grade of the terrain, and it essentially loses a floor when from the rear of the building. I have a rendering that I would like to show.
We have to mark that, Mr. Chair, A2.
A2, please provide it.
This is the rendering. Again, here are the materials and the trees. We are providing the 2 trees. And this red shadow here to the left is the existing home that is currently there. The height of this home to the top of the ridge is 45 feet. So it's effectively 10 foot lower than our roof. So essentially 1 story lower. And pretty much that concludes my testimony in terms of this architecture. I'm open to any questions.
Council, further questions for this witness?
No, I just wanted to clarify what we were discussing on the unit types. You've indicated that we just changed it, so now we have the number of units we discussed. We have 5 3-bedrooms. Just
yes.
Count that.
Correct. 5 3-bedrooms, 15 2-bedrooms, and 5 1-bedrooms.
And we meet all of the zoning requirements with respect to glazing and transparency. That's correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I have no additional questions.
Thank you. Questions for the architect from the board? Questions for the architect from the board? Commissioner Monfort.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Fernandez, I didn't see washer and dryer hookups inside, nor maybe I missed it. I didn't see any laundry room, because as much as we talk about traffic and parking, we would prefer people not to have to leave their homes to do their laundry, because then they may come back and have to look for a parking space for 45 minutes before they can get their laundry back upstairs. Can you show me where laundry room is?
Sure. I provided testimony that there'll be a common laundry within the 5th floor. I hope you can see that.
No, you're gonna have to bring it down.
We see the documents.
Yeah, sorry about that. We're referring to Exhibit A1 on the second sheet, correct? Which is the 5th floor plan.
That is correct.
And he said stackable units there, for a total of 12, I think he said.
Right here on the 5th floor plan, we have the central laundry facility, and it has 6 of each, and they are stackable, so they're two washers per unit and 2 dryers per unit.
Now, Mr. Fernandez, you've been before this zoning board for a minimum now, at least 5 years minimum. As an architect that comes before the zoning board, I've seen you put washer and dryer connectors inside apartments before. Why not inside the apartments?
I cannot answer that. The only question I can answer is to say that that wasn't part of my program that I was given by the developer. Of course, I have designed units that have those in the past, but it wasn't part of this developer's program. And I believe he's adhering to strict guidelines from the entity that he's seeking financing from.
Mr. Fernandez, are you suggesting that his financing is prohibiting him from putting washer and dryers in each unit? That's not what you're saying, is it?
I'm suggesting that he's adhering to strict guidelines.
That's not what I asked you. Are you saying that he's prohibited from putting washer and dryer units in every unit by his financer? You sure are intimating that.
I'm not saying that he's prohibited by them. I'm saying that
all right. Well, that's good.
Is trying to comply with some strict guidelines.
Well, do those guidelines prohibit him from putting washer and dryers there? If you know or you don't know,
I cannot answer.
Well, then please don't intimate. You're suggesting that they are, and that's being disingenuous. I'm sorry, Commissioner Vice Chair.
No problem. Thank you, because I was feeling the same way for a minute there, Mr. Chair. I was about to go down into a whole other line of questions. Ms. Fernandez, at this time, I'm going to let my other colleagues have questions, but I'll be back.
Well, Mr. Fernandez, just following up on it, can you put washers and dryers in each of the units? Can you design it so that there are washer and dryers in each of these units?
Architecturally, yes.
Okay. So, council, you know where I'm going.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
As a condition of approval, would your applicant agree to put washers and dryers in every unit? That's something that's become pretty standard with us, as you all know.
I do understand that. Unfortunately, I understand that there are funding limitations with respect to this project and the cost per unit for build, and unfortunately, it couldn't be accommodated. These units are all ADA adaptable, so they had to my understanding is, and George was given Mr. Fernandez, I apologize, was given the guide that based on the project costs that wouldn't be feasible. There isn't a requirement under the code necessarily to provide for washers and dryers. They are providing a laundry room with 12 washers and 12 dryers in the hopes that that amenity would be sufficient. Just because it's an affordable project and their goal is to provide the subsidized housing and the costs for the rents towards that. So I'd have to ask my client, Mr. Chair.
Please do. Okay. Commissioner Vice Chair Munford.
Yes, Councilor. Please talk to your client, because what I'm hearing from you and what I'm hearing from Mr. Fernandez doesn't sit right with my spirit. Because it seems like if you're providing apartments for affordable, then they don't get stackables in the apartment. But if you buy a market rate, it's okay to get them inside stackable dryers. That's what it seems like to me, and that's not sitting well with my spirit. So
I don't want
talk to your applicant about that, because it's kind of cringing me a little bit.
No, obviously, let me just check with them. The intent is not to say, and I apologize if it came across, we were just advised that how the funding limitations, but I am happy to speak with them. If you just bear with me 1 second and I can check for you, okay?
Sure. Are there any other questions? And we'll wait for counsel from the board for Mr. Fernandez. Mr. Hazel, did I see a hand from you?
Yeah, but I don't think
we'll wait for counsel.
Recording stopped.
Shall we take 5 minutes? Ms. Mejia, let's take 5 minutes.
Okay.
We'll come back at 8:26.
The time is now 8:27. If you can please turn on your screens.
Sorry, I'm 4 minutes late.
Recording in progress.
Okay, if everyone could come back, Commissioner Hall. Great. Okay. Council, where are we?
So I've had a couple discussions with the client, and the question is whether they would prefer a laundry room on every floor for the affordability levels to stay, or we can do them in units, and then the affordability will be 60% AMI or below. So that we can play around with that and try to accommodate the request from the board. The project will always be 100% affordable. It's just a matter of the levels of affordability. So we're trying to work to make sure we can accommodate the ask. So we can do a small laundry room on each floor, like one on each floor for the tenants, or we can alternatively put them in unit, and then the AMI will be 60% or below.
Mr. Hazel.
Yes, just for my clarity, I just wanted to understand this. I'm assuming that the laundry rooms, the laundry machines, and so there will be coin operated, or there will be a charge for those.
I'm sorry. Will there be a charge? Yeah, but it's to cover the. Yes, it'll be nominal. It's only to cover the cost of the machines themselves. Yes.
Okay, so and if they were in the individual units, they would be part of the.
Which is why the cost issue, correct, for an affordable project.
So that it's the income from the laundry rooms that is the factor.
It's the income of the additional added value of the washer dryer for the units for an affordable project. It's only 25 units, and so when we set strict restrictions on the funding, we met the limitations we have. Not necessarily that we don't believe every tenant should have the availability, that access.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you.
Vice Chair Monfort.
I do not. Very rarely do we get 100% affordable projects that come before the board. But the council know, and so does the architect know, how I feel about individuals having wash and dry within their living facility, because that is the next century where everything's going. Laundromats are going to become obsolete. But adding a laundry on all the floors, I will be able to compromise with that as a condition to keep the 100% affordable. Then to have it just come down to the 60%, 30% median thing that they do. AMI, I don't want to do that.
So, Ms. Perez, can you define affordable for us? How that's measured?
It's based on an area median income, and that's established by HUD, the guidelines that the city uses for the most part in most of these funding sources. And so,
and what's the area that Newark is in? It's Essex County?
Newark, actually, it is Essex County, and then there is a sub area that is specifically for Newark. But yes, it falls under the Essex County realm. And in this instance, the project, the programming is for 60 between 30 to 50% AMI for some units, and 60% or less. So in no event will there ever be any rents over 60% AMI. And I can actually speak to this a little bit because I do a lot of affordable housing. Most projects now are 60% over. Here, it's 60% and under. So we're actually getting the very lower echelon for rents, which is why this is an asset and so important, such an important project. Those levels are very low.
Thank you. Any further questions for the architect from the board? Mr. Fernandez, talk to me about density.
In terms of
if this was permitted, which it's not, because it's not on a corner lot, what would the required density be for each unit? If you know.
I believe Mr. Hazel's report said 13 units.
Well, to be 13 units, so this is doubling what would be permitted. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And what about the lot area that would be permitted if this met all the conditions? If you know?
I believe the lot is. I believe the new zoning ordinance did away with the requirement for lot area when you're not doing a subdivision. In this case, we're not doing a subdivision, but I would defer to the planner on that.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Hazel?
Saying that you're saying that for a low-rise multifamily building, there's no minimum lot area required.
I think what Mr. Brennan said was that defer to our planner. I apologize. And maybe Mr. McDonough can provide. But I apologize, Mr. Hazel.
No problem.
Okay, well, I'll defer to my plan.
Yeah, no, of course. I didn't mean.
Mr. Hazel, if you could help us out there?
Yes. No, what the change in the ordinance did is it reduced the minimum lot area for a low-rise multifamily from 10,000 square foot to 5,000 square foot.
Okay. Do you agree with what Ms. Fernandez said about the apartment count?
Yes, the 13, yes. But basically, as a conditional use requirement requires at least 500 square feet per dwelling unit. And based on that, on the lot size that this subject lot is, it would be a maximum of 13 units would be permitted at that 500.
So I guess I was confused. It's what I'm talking about then is maximum density per dwelling, which is different.
No, well, it's the same. It's in this ordinance, it's measured by the lot area per dwelling unit. Some places measure it by units per acre, and so, but it's a measure of density.
And if this met all the conditions, what would that number be?
They would be required to have a minimum of 500 square feet per dwelling unit. In this case, they're providing approximately 277.6.
That's almost half. Is that fair to say, Mr. Fernandez? Half of what's required if it met the conditions, which it doesn't?
Well, I defer to the planner on that in terms of the conditions.
If this what would it be otherwise, Mr. Hazel, if it wasn't a condition? If it was just this building type, is there a difference?
Yes, if it were just this building type, it would be 375 square feet per dwelling unit, which is less.
Less, but still less than what's being provided here.
That is correct.
So
based on this, if you use that standard, based on this lot size, the applicant would be permitted a maximum of 18 units.
So 13 units if it complied with conditional use.
If you use the conditional use.
18 if it complied with the building type.
Correct.
Council, I have a real problem with the density here. The density that's being provided is far too small. It's less than it's half of what would be required in this area as a conditional use, and it's still 100 square feet under the amount for the building type. How many apartments? Well, I wouldn't look to make you comply with what's required for the R3, which is where you are, and what you're seeking. But I would think that coming closer to 18 units would be far more reasonable.
I believe if we can, Mr. Chair, I'd like our planner to provide some testimony. I hear what you're saying. I just need a moment. There's benefits to others and detriments.
Just letting you know what my thinking is. Mr. Fernandez, you also said that the adjacent, the building height here is about 1 story, about 10 feet higher than the adjacent 4-story building. what was earlier testified as a 4-story building. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And 20 feet, about 20 feet lower or higher than the highest point of this proposed building, right?
Correct. The central stair.
Right. So from 10 feet higher to 20 feet higher. This is it fair to say that this is going to be the tallest building on Garside Avenue?
Yes. On this, at least on this block of immediate block of Garside Avenue.
Right. And before this building, the adjacent building and the 2 adjacent buildings, the 4 stories, is it fair to say that those are the highest buildings right now?
Yes, on Garside. Yes.
Okay. Thanks. Any further questions from the board for the architect?
I do.
Yes, Commissioner Riviera.
I'm trying to understand about this because I don't see these as small apartments. How are they not really? It's basically by half that they're literally basically behind, right? That they're allowed to build somewhat. How come? Because I see the extra floor. I understand 4 floors, 5 floors. I see the 25 units. I see 3 bedroom apartments or 1, 2 bedroom apartments. And they're significant size. And I'm trying to understand it. Could anyone explain to me why they're nearly behind by 50% or whatever they really, really need? Or they're required? If they met the requirement, they wouldn't be here to begin with, right? But how come they're asking for a lot?
Good question. Mr. Hazel, can you help?
Well, I mean, the most straightforward answer is that the density is a function of the lot size. So that even though the apartments themselves may be ample size in terms of they're not like tiny apartments, it's the number of them they have relative to the lot size. So, you could put another floor on this, and then the density number would go down even more. So it's that function, and you have to also look at the point that in terms of this building on this lot, remember you're also looking at setbacks that are significantly less than even required for a low-rise building in a permitted area. So there's a lot of different factors going into play here, but ultimately it is relatively the number of units relative to the size of the plaza.
I think I got this about. What's the lot size here, Mr. Fernandez? 70 by 100 or so?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, for that explanation, Mr. Hazel. Any further questions from the board? Mr. Coulter. Mr. Coulter, do you have a question for the architect?
Yes.
Okay,
My only question.
Again, once more, your name and your address.
Oh, okay. Shay Coulter, 920 Broad Street. The only question was, does he understand the suggestions that the zoning board has suggested to him in the scope of the washer and dryer? And I do think that the merits of this board should be considered by any applicant to have a journey to be in compliance. It was more of a suggestion, but that was my question. My question is, are you able to make these adjustments and still keep it affordable for working class Norkers, for your client, Mr. Jorge? Are you able to work within the parameters of what the board has given you? Because board member Monteford, I believe that's his name, Coach Mr. Monteford, he raised very good merits in his questioning, and I don't think it stifles the deal. I'm pro deal, but we have a climate of poverty here, and we really need this to be affordable for the working taxpayers. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the question is, do you have the capital flexibility and the ingenuity to meet what this board is asking you to do in the regards to that last parameter. Thank you.
If you can answer, Mr. Fernandez.
I can only answer as to the architecture, and I believe we agreed to install a washer and dryer area on each floor. We can definitely do that. That's all I can answer.
Thank you. Ms. Alston Singleton. Could you just state your name and ask your question for the architect?
Well, I'm about to cringe over here. Felicia Austin Singleton. I have a question. Now, if we're putting laundry rooms on every floor, and it was just stated that the 25 apartments were not in the square feet ordinance, how are we now putting a laundry room on every floor? Aren't we now cutting the space of the apartments that were already there, or did you just have a place that was left blank on the floor?
We have, I can answer that. We have mechanical closets on the floors so that they can be used for laundry. I believe that you would need roughly 2 units per floor. So a washer, dryer unit per floor. And that we can definitely fit that.
Thank you, Ms. Menendez. You just answered my next question. I appreciate your answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Riviera.
Let me unmute myself here. I actually have a question in regards to the program, the affordability. Are these apartment size? It should be complying with the program, right? Or what is the size of the state, or where the fundings are? You guys are getting help from. What are the requirements on the size of the apartments there? Are you able to answer
that? We are compliant in terms of their requirements, as far as I know, for the 3, 2, and 1 bedroom.
Okay. And like I said, they're decent sized apartments. I guess they request a little bit from you guys, right? That's all I had. I'm sorry for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions for the architect? Are there any further questions from the architect? Council.
I have no additional questions for Mr. Fernandez. I'd like to call the planner, please, Mr. McDonough.
Mr. McDonough, raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to provide be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman.
Please state your name, your address, and relationship to the application.
My name is Sean McDonough. My address is 101 Gibraltar Drive, Parsippany, New Jersey, and I am the project planner.
Council? Ms. McDonough is well known to this board. Ms. McDonough, is your planning license in the state of New Jersey currently in full force and effect?
Yes, it is.
We'll accept Ms. McDonough as an expert in the field of planning. Council?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. McDonough, you reviewed the plans as well as the modified plans with respect to this application, correct?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And you heard the testimony that's been presented this evening as related to that?
Yes.
Okay. Understanding the relief that's being requested, can you please provide an overview of your planning analysis with respect to the relief that's being requested, specifically the D3 and the density, please?
Sure. The board is confronted here with somewhat of a unique challenge. We're dealing with somewhat of a different application here than the board ordinarily sees, as Vice Chair Munford had pointed out. This is a 100% affordable housing project, which our courts recognize as distinctly different than your typical multifamily development. It's what we would call, under the land use law, an inherently beneficial use, which means the very nature of the use deserves special treatment in terms of the statutory test that applies here. It's not the applicant's burden to apply the more stringent test that would apply to, I'll say, a full market or an inclusionary multifamily development. The courts have found that for inherently beneficial uses, the use is of such paramount public importance that it automatically satisfies the positive criteria. So it's not the applicant's burden in this application to prove that this project will serve the public good. That's echoed by your city's own master plan, which we know was an extensive inclusionary process as well, a lengthy process, the Newark 360 process, and many themes emerged during that process, which involved many Newarkers here in the city. The number one problem that came to a head during the process was the implementation of affordable housing. And throughout the process, that major theme, no matter what the format of the engagement was that affordable housing is the most pressing identified need by Newarkers, and solutions should be tailored. Some of the numbers that we saw, again, these are the master plans. These are not my numbers. Cites a Rutgers Center on Law, Inequality, and Metropolitan Equity report identifying Newark as short as many as 16,000 units of affordable housing. There's a housing vision. This master plan was adopted in 2022 that talks about by 2026, we're already halfway there, adding 6,600 affordable units, prioritizing affordability at or below that 30% AMI threshold, which this applicant, as you've heard, stipulated a percentage of these units would be and hit that mark. So again, we're dealing with a land use here that's distinctly different. And as always, the board has to apply this balancing here. You've heard through the witnesses before me on behalf of the applicant that a certain critical mass is necessary to keep this project affordable. We're here in the R4, R3 zone district where multifamily residential is permitted as conditional use. This applicant in that regard could comply with the density, as you've heard through Mr. Hazel. 13 units would be the density threshold here. That would be below the 15 unit threshold in your IZO for an inclusionary component. Again, the applicant here is going 100% affordable. If we went down to 13 units here, the applicant would have no obligation for affordability or affordable units. I only say that just to give the board some consideration again in terms of the balancing here and the fact that affordability is the driver of density here. That's not something we typically see with the market rate units. So I offer the board to consider that in terms of the weight of the positive criteria here and the need for these 25 units is critical mass, if you will, to make this project work as an affordable housing project. If that density erodes, the affordability component erodes as well. In terms of the relief that the applicant is seeking, it's really twofold in terms of the D relief, the D3 conditional use relief as to the lot type, being that this is not on a corner lot, and the density, which interrelates to the D5 test, and whether the site has adequate carrying capacity to accommodate that density. So in terms of the conditional use relief, again, we're dealing with an inherently beneficial use. Our courts have told us that whenever we're dealing with an inherently beneficial use, it's a simplified 4-part test or a 4-prong test. Prong number 1 is to identify the public interest at stake. I think it's self-evident here. The public interest is affordable housing. All of the units here are going to be income restricted. That will go towards the master plan goals. Prong number 2 is to identify potentially detrimental impacts. You've got testimony on the record here by experts sworn under oath that the project will flow, will function, will operate safely and comfortably. The unit sizes are appropriate. The livability of these units, notwithstanding the density requirement, will not constitute overcrowding and give the persons that live here accessibility to what all persons on the North Ward would enjoy in terms of the great amenities on that portion of the city. The lot type relief can be granted with minimal impact. I showed you those photographs at the beginning that although we are not a corner lot per se, we are akin to a corner lot, one lot removed. And in fact, the last building in the chain of buildings on the street, it's sort of a step up, if you will, going from the predominance of 3-story buildings to those 2 4-story buildings that are immediately adjacent to the site. The applicant is proposing 5 stories here, and then immediately behind us are those 6-story buildings. So there is somewhat of a progression to what the applicant is proposing here on what is somewhat of a transitional lot. The proposed development is compatible with the area from a massing standpoint, and the density relief, I'm going to hit that next, is also justifiable under that conditional use standard in that the site can accommodate the density that's before the board. It can adequately be parked, as you've heard. It can be adequately sewered, watered, and the like. The third prong, the third part of the test is really where the board comes into play and does so well, is to identify mitigative measures to lessen the impacts. This is supposed to be an interactive process. The board has authority here to impose reasonable restrictions or conditions on the use to ensure that it will be a positive integration with the area. And then finally, the tricky part of this application, prong number 4, is to consider on balancing whether that heavy weight of the positive criteria substantially outweigh any potential mitigated impacts. That goes towards the D3 conditional use relief. And then with respect to density, again, in terms of the positive criteria, all of the project positives cited above would carry forth. As I said, affordability is the driver of density here. And this density is necessary to effectuate a good project that delivers an inherently beneficial use. In terms of the negative criteria, again, I'll just fall back on all the testimony on the record that the site can accommodate any problems associated with the added density here. There is some lower level C relief, and I know a member of the public had a good question with respect to setbacks and coverage. And I'm just going to end here by going back to those visuals that I showed at the beginning. These last two give the board a sense of setbacks. This is a view looking to the south along Garside Street towards the downtown. And the applicant does need relief for 0 setback along the frontage. You get a sense of how close the buildings are. There's a pretty strong pattern there. And then finally, with respect to the overall lot coverage, most of these lots on the street are developed and coverage as far back as the applicant is proposing as well. The coverage and the bulk relief here, the setback relief, is all being provided to effectuate parking on this site, which again goes towards the balancing that the board has to consider. So I'll fold that in as well. You heard Bauman's testimony at the very outset as to why we can't comply with all of the tree requirements on this site, but will comply or contribute to the tree funds requirement. You heard Connor's testimony with respect to traffic and census data, ITE, availability of parking in the street, the walkable and transit-rich nature of the area as justifiable for that. So based on all of the above, I believe that the applicant has met its burden here, somewhat of a lesser burden because we are dealing with an inherently beneficial use. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I would offer that approval is warranted.
Thank you. Council, further questions for this witness?
Mr. McKinnon.
Questions for the planner from the board? Commissioner Riviera.
I'm looking at the corner lot here, and I can't help but think that, do you think in the near future that there's going to be a mid-rise building there? Are you able to tell me what you would imagine at that corner in the future? Because I see a parking lot for 20 vehicles possibly. Is there a chance there won't be a mid-rise there?
It's a good question. It seems to be only a matter of time before these surface parking lots here in the city are built over with some form of building mass.
Yeah, that's a city lot, or is it private property?
It's a good question. I had actually asked that to the team, and I can certainly look it up if I need to come back to it. My sense is it belongs to the apartments up the hill, but I'm not. That lot carries down the hill, so I think they're all connected.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Further, any other questions for the planner from the board? Additional questions for the planner from the board. Mr. McDonough, I agree that affordability is important, but I have some concerns here. You stated that density erodes, the erosion of density results in the erosion of affordability. Am I paraphrasing you correctly?
That's accurate, Mr. Chairman, yes.
And when you say that, are you referring to the inclusionary zoning ordinance of the city?
No, what I was saying is less density, less units equals less affordable units, no matter how you slice it. Whether we apply the IZO or whether we just look at this as a 100% affordable project. The nice thing about this application is it's a little.
You know what? Could you explain that to me? I don't quite understand how you get to that.
So
I do understand that the IZO has a threshold, right? And if you meet that threshold, you have to provide affordable units. But that doesn't prohibit someone from providing affordable units if they choose to, even though it's not required by law. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say. I get you now. I don't know, just to throw some numbers around, I thought I heard something about 18 units. And as I understand it, this project simply doesn't work as an affordable project.
You said that.
Well, let's use 18 units as a number because 15 is the threshold, as I understand it, for IZO, where a certain percentage of the development would have to be affordable units. But most of these units would be market rate if we went down to the 18. Perhaps, let's say 3 units would be affordable. So that's what I mean by erodes the affordability of.
And what's your basis for saying that?
Again, IZO, as I understand it, is 15% or 20% of the total number of units. So all I'm talking about is from the ordinance requirements.
Okay.
I don't know this for a fact, Mr. Chairman, but if the density dropped to 18, I don't know if this becomes a 15-unit market rate project with 3 affordable units. I don't know.
But if a developer chose to make anything that they were developing affordable, there's no requirement stopping them from doing that. Isn't that fair to say?
That is fair. That is fair.
Okay. So the other thing you said that this site can handle this development, right?
Yes.
But we need a D3 variance here because this site can handle what is being proposed here. Isn't that fair to say? That's what the D3 is, right?
Well, the D3 imposes conditions that the applicant is not meeting here. One of those is density.
Which means that this site can handle what's being proposed here. That's why you're here.
Well, I can't concede on that point, Mr. Chairman, because
you want to, though. I could feel that you want to.
The test is whether the site can accommodate the density. That's all I'll say.
Right, and there are 2 conditions that can't be met here, right?
That's correct.
Right. It's not a corner lot, and it's overly dense. Those are the 2 conditions that can't be met. Am I correct there?
That's correct.
And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, around 8 bulk variances, right?
Yes, you're well listed in Mr. Hazel's report.
Excessive lot, excessive impervious. So the site can't handle what's required there. Is that? Am I being fair in saying that?
Again, Mr. Chairman, I cannot concede on that point. Just because there's a variance does not mean.
Am I wrong? No. Can you say that I'm categorically wrong if I say that?
All I can say is, just because an application needs a variance doesn't mean it can't accommodate the density.
Okay, let's talk about the density. Because the site it clearly is smaller than what would work for this.
Now, Lou, how long you would have had to wait? You could have got your picture.
Let's talk about the density. And Mr. Hazel's report talks about 500 square feet, maximum density, 500 square feet per dwelling. Can what does that mean, Mr. McDonough?
It's essentially a light and air control that it's a spatial control that for each unit there shall be a land area of 500 square feet.
Why do we have that? What's the importance of that?
The reason why we impose light and air controls is to avoid overcrowding, undersized units, comfortable living environments.
Okay, thank you. And that is what would be required if this proposed building was on the corner site where it would be where the zoning ordinance looked to put it. Is that correct?
I think I lost you on that, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, this is permitted. This would be permitted as a conditional use on the corner lot, right?
One lot over, yes.
Right, and it was good. And if it was there, the maximum density per unit would be 500 square feet, right?
Correct.
Light and air, and what else did you say?
I think I basically said spatial control.
Spatial control. And what's the size of these proposed units?
I should have been ready for that.
I think it's 275 square feet. Does that refer to your recollection?
The lot area per unit, yes, is 275.
That's a bit over half of what would be permitted if it was on the right on the corner lot, right?
Correct. Correct.
To me that's a significant difference. Why shouldn't I be concerned about that significant difference?
Well, lack of space on a piece of land makes us look at the greater district, at the greater amenities in the area. And I'm just looking at a map here. We know we're proximate to Branch Brook right there, which is beautiful open space. So the fact that there's lack of land area on the site itself, the site is within reasonable accessibility to the wonderful park that's on the north side. So there is light and air within the general area.
How far away is Branch Brook Park?
It's about 4 blocks away, and I'm just checking.
Wow.
It's about 1,500 feet. I guess that's about 15.
So here's my concern. You just told me that this is about livability, right? Spatial control. And if this was where it was supposed to be, we'd have twice the square footage. So it sounds like we're warehousing people and putting it on the back of affordability. And that kind of sticks in my craw. You can understand that, right?
I can. So
let's assume that it's not on the corner lot. If it wasn't on the corner lot, which it's not, because it's not permitted. I think Mr. Hazel suggested that the maximum square footage is less. That's required is less, right? Did you hear him say that?
Yeah. If this building type were outside of R3, the lot area per family or per unit would get down to 375.
375. So even if, so unfortunately, we're still 100 square feet under.
Mathematically, yes. If we were outside of R3, that's where we get to your 18. I think that's.
So it's not 500 square feet that's required in the R3 area. It's not 375 that's required. It was outside of the R3 area. It has insufficient front yard, insufficient side yard, insufficient rear yard, excessive lot coverage, and it's 10 to 20 feet higher than any building on the block. Well, then, no, I'm wrong there. It's 10 to 20 feet higher than the highest buildings on Garside Avenue. So,
understood.
So those are my concerns. Am I wrong to have those concerns? I'm not even, forget about the trees. You know how I feel about the trees, but we won't go there.
If it helps, Mr. Chair, if it helps you and if it helps board members, again, I did not hear anything in Mr. Fernandez's testimony with respect to building code, which ensures that the safety and the comfort of the interior of these units. I hear you that the applicant is asking for zoning relief, but these are not going to be overcrowded, uncomfortable units in terms of the livability as designed by Mr. Fernandez. It's going to adhere to all building codes. So if that helps with the density question, the fact that these units were not undersized or not well appointed, in my mind, helps mitigate that concern about the density. The other thing that mitigates my concern about the density is, again, one less unit here, and then we lose 25 affordable units. All I'm saying is that could happen, that could realistically happen here if the density goes down.
Yeah, I guess my concern is that we're putting too many people on too small piece of a land in a building that doesn't fit on the block. That's I guess my concern. I would feel less concerned. I wouldn't, there'd still be concerns, but I feel less concerned if we could take the top floor off and take off 7 units. And that would give us how many units, Mr. McDonough? Is that how we got to the 8?
If that gets you to the 18, yes.
Which is still over the 13, significantly over the 13, but at least it would be less people on that property, and that would make me feel better. I wonder if the applicant would agree to that as a condition of approval. I'm asking that of council to ask her applicant.
Can you repeat the ask again? The specifically to the number of units indicated, just to be clear on the ask.
Well, that we take off the floor, take off the 5th floor, make this 18 units, which is still greater than the 13 that would be permitted, if it met all the conditions, which it still won't. Still has a density. We'll need a density, but it won't be as dense. We won't be cramming as many people into this small of a spot. And so I'll throw that out there. Ms. Alston Singleton, do you have a question for the planner? Ms. Alston Singleton, you are muted.
Yes. Am I asking the questions to this guy, or am I giving my comments?
It's question time. It's still question time. We haven't gotten to the comment time yet. It's coming though. We're getting closer. Do you have a question?
Is it Mr.
McDonough?
Is it to him, right?
Yes.
Sir, you said that this building had nothing to do with inclusionary zoning, yet you quoted the crime report with 16,000 units. Okay, and that has everything with inclusionary zoning and the AMI and affordable housing. That's all wrapped into one right there. Affordable housing, inclusionary zoning, and the crime report is one basis for Newark. You gave me, they gave us 13, 18, 25, 40, and 60. I'm waiting for the mega ball. Can we get one?
I'm not sure I understand the question. I'm sorry.
Okay. Are you I was making a joke. Are you referring to and saying that this building, when you said it was not inclusionary, because that's what you said, it was not inclusionary because I do AMI's inclusionary. When you referred to the crime report with the 16,000 units, are you trying to meet Newark's affordable housing deficit?
Yes. Yes. The applicant is proposing 25 units that would go towards that 16,000 unit goal. And all I'm saying, Ms. Alston Singleton, is if the density goes down even by 1 unit, again, that's this applicant, the ability to provide for affordable housing units goes away.
So are you saying that when you're reducing density by putting in 25 units in a 13 unit required for this property, are you reducing density or are you adding density? Are you increasing or decreasing the number?
In short, the applicant is asking the board to, as the chair said, about twice as many units as would be allowed under the strict zoning.
So is that decreasing the density or increasing the density?
That is an increase in density. That's a decrease in lot area per unit or per family.
So when the other people were talking about you were decreasing density, is it true what you just said that with 25 units on this lot, there will be an increase in density?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Screen name Daniel. Can you turn on your camera and unmute yourself?
How you doing, board? I just have a couple.
Your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Daniel Spalding. Address 160 2nd Avenue. That's in Newark, New Jersey.
Thank you, Mr. Spalding. You have a question for the planner?
Yes, I have a question for the planner.
Please.
By dropping taking off a floor, as the chairman asked, by taking off a floor and taking away seven units, would we lose that 100% affordability?
I'm going to say yes, unless counsel or somebody else tells me no. But
hold on one second. By using that 100% of affordability, by losing that, aren't we losing the objective of having affordable living?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next question, right? For the chairman that was asking about not for you, but for this, just for a chairman, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to be able to answer. By putting a laundry on each floor, sorry about that, the architect, but by putting a laundry room on each floor and losing a mechanical room, are we losing security? What actually goes into those mechanical rooms? Because now they have to move. And by this being an updated and high-tech building, don't we need those mechanical rooms?
If you can answer, Mr. McDonough.
Daniel, I can't answer that. I don't.
That question right there was for the architect. Sorry, Chairman, but this is really like my first time and I'm in this and I'm a resident. And I don't want to lose the affordability. If I understood correctly, when the architect was explaining, each apartment is...
Sir, Mr. Spalding, the question you just asked was about the mechanical rooms, not about a floor.
Correct. Yes,
He can't answer that question.
Okay, fine. So this is another question I have to ask, right? One, we're going to lose the 100% affordability, and I believe that's the main objective here. Is the 100% affordability.
Well,
but also, Chairman, this is a question for you. Yes.
Spalding, the question for the board is not affordability. The question for the board is whether we grant the variances that are requested.
No, and I understand that. But you suggested, because the lot can't hold 25 people, but the architect has explained, the planner has explained, everybody has explained that the 25 units can't occupy that space. And the apartments be a perfect size for bigger families. They even added 5 more 3-bedroom apartments.
Mr. Spalding, if they were able to build on that site what they wanted to, they wouldn't be here asking for variances. They're here to ask for variances because they can't comply with our ordinance to build what they want to build. So that's why they come before the board and say, here's what we like to do, even though it's not permitted there. And here's the reasons why we think we should be allowed to do it. And then as a resident,
if I'm sitting here listening, I've been here listening the whole time, they're compliant to all the things that you guys are asking for to be able to put 25 units there.
Well, no.
Am I correct?
No. If they were compliant, they wouldn't have to be before the board.
Right. No, I'm saying that it's possible for them to build this here if you guys give them the go ahead to do it. Like, what would it affect?
If we grant the variances, then and only then, and they, and they get all the other things they have to get, but they can't build what they want to build unless and until we grant the variances. That's correct.
That's correct. Okay, cool.
Yep.
No problem.
Any other questions?
I can't ask any questions. I can't ask any other questions to any other of the panel people. I can't ask them any questions.
I wish you wouldn't, but who do you want to ask a question for?
I also want to ask a question to the gentleman that does the traffic, because I would like to know what other buildings are actually have parking accessible to their tenants.
I don't know. That's not what he testified about.
No, I'm asking a question. The question was about parking and overloading the parking.
Right.
This specific.
Spalding, he testified only about how parking would be affected on this application. He didn't study other buildings.
No, I'm asking. The question that I want to ask is out of 4 buildings that's there, do any of the buildings are also giving parking?
None of that is before this board. The only thing before this board is this application. What other
No, I understand that. I understand. I don't think you understand my question. My question to him, because the young lady asked, did he check around the perimeter? How many blocks did he check far as parking? So I would like to know, on that block, there's other buildings. The building that the people that are trying to build a building in that lot are also giving parking. Is there any other building on that building that are also giving parking to pull away from the strain of parking? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, well, in order to stop the back and forth, let me just ask Mr. Hughes. Mr. Hughes, can you answer that question?
Yeah, so we didn't specifically look at any of the other buildings here, but I have worked on other projects throughout the city that didn't provide any parking. So just with respect to that, our application is certainly...
As I suggested, Mr. Spalding,
so Mr. Hughes,
any other building, so he can't answer your question.
Okay, that's fine that he can't answer the question, but is it a positive that the owner that's building this building, is it a positive that he's providing parking, even if it's not for each unit inside the building? Is it taken away from the strain of the parking on the street? Just asking.
That's clearly what his testimony was.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to ask. Thank you.
His testimony was, although it doesn't meet the requirement, it's something.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Parker. Questions for the planner, Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Just state your name and address again, please.
Lisa Parker, 71 and a half Boston Street. I just have this to ask if they are not meeting the compliance issues and are asking for variances. Why should the commissioners approve of this project? I'm in agreement with everything you said, Mr. Afan, that we're hurting people in smaller places while the developer is trying to optimize his profit while using affordable, which we wrangle over because affordable can mean anywhere that you must make $85,000 to $100,000 a year versus low to moderate. How? What accommodations can this developer make to be compliant and not say to the people, if we take away, then we chuck the project?
Well, I think the whole purpose of council's presentation is to offer proofs as to why these variants should be granted. And look, the developers have to make money on their development, right?
I agree.
And the board has to respect that. That's what that's what moves developers, and we try and balance the needs of the community with those needs of the developer, and it's often a difficult task, but that's what we try and do. I think council has and her witnesses have very forcefully suggested why this is an appropriate project, and it's for us to make that decision. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the planner? Council?
I have no additional witnesses. Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Wow, why did I'm really sorry. My phone just playing music. My phone just started playing Bad Bunny. I have no idea what that is about. I'm not a Bad Bunny age. Council. Ms. Parker, is that a new hand or an old hand?
Old hand.
Thank you.
All right.
Council.
I do not have any additional witnesses, Chairman.
Council, I wonder if your applicant, if you talk to your applicant about knocking off the 5th floor.
I can. And unfortunately, if we knock down the floor, then the project just does not work. As I mentioned earlier, there are guidelines, and the minimum number of units that are required for this is 25, and that's why that is being proposed. Anything less would change the project and essentially would not be the project that is before the board this evening.
Sounds like a no.
Correct. Sorry.
Commissioner Torres.
No, I was just in my opinion, if you were to reduce the floor, if we approved it, if you were to reduce the floor with the washer and dryer in each unit, this is not going to be affordable anymore.
If we reduce the project, it will not be affordable at all.
Right, it won't be affordable. Can you put the washer and dryer in each unit instead of?
It won't be a project. No, this project will not exist. We will have to go back and decide what we will do for this project. The project that's before you, the 100% affordable project, and the building type that's before you That is what we're asking the board. Anything beyond that is not, within the programmatic or this application. So the applicants, would have to decide what they're going to do.
Thank you.
Okay, council, you have no further witnesses?
I do not.
It's now the time for members of the public to make statements if they care to do so. If you care to make a statement, please raise your hand. I will ask you to submit to the oath, and you'll have 3 minutes to make your statement. Miss Alston Singleton, can you turn on your camera and raise your right hand? And before you raise your, okay, great. I was going to say, unmute yourself. You beat me to it. Ma'am, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please state your name, your address, and give us your statement for the record.
Felicia Austin Singleton, 152 12th Avenue, Newark, New Jersey. As I was listening to the developer, and I understand what the zoning board is for, but the actual inclusionary zoning ordinance was to accommodate low-income housing that was being tore down within the city so that we can make housing available to now the low income, which would be 40 to 60%, which this development is doing. However, I just could not get with this planner that said that they couldn't take the number of apartments down to the proper size and still do affordable housing. But then he wanted, if you can't do affordable housing, but you want to cram us in at the 25 units, which made the apartments smaller, but then you wanted the affordable housing crime report to back you up. I think that's unfair to the residents. I think that the study wasn't done sufficiently and properly for the North Ward. We all know that the North Ward actually double parks. So that was not even brought up. But now you're going to create density. Did they ever think that there would be an apartment put there at the end, which would now make it harder? I think that this space was too small for what they wanted to do. And they even wanted to initially go higher to cram more people in, and you came back and still cramming people in and talking about the luxuries that you do, but still at cutting the cost. Like the zoning board needs to come up with, at what cost is this zoning or variance is going to hurt the residents? If you're saying you want to be for the residents and you're going to provide a safe, decent, and a clean environment, yes, everything may be clean, everything may be beautiful, but why should I have to do it in a cramped room? Why shouldn't I be able to have the luxury of having the correct amount of space that I'm supposed to have for my unit without the developer not wanting to do a project at 100% affordable? Why can't you be the first developer to say, hey, I'm going to comply with the ordinance at 100% affordable, because you wasn't going 100% affordable on your own. You were using the Housing Trust Fund. And that was from people who didn't want to build affordable. He didn't want to build it, so they put money in there to have you build affordable. But every statement I heard was affordable, affordable, affordable. And affordable is only contingent if you would want to pack us in like sardines. And that's not fair to the residents. That's not fair to this inclusionary zoning ordinance itself, which you kept saying affordable, affordable, affordable. Why? Why should we have to suffer in order to make the developers happy? Newark is prime real estate. You reference a park that we can easily walk to. If you want to be involved in Newark, then pay the price so that you can now make the money and now let everybody live happily, and you can come to Branchville Park and enjoy it just like the residents as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alston. Ms. Parker, could you unmute yourself? Ms. Parker?
Thank you.
Could you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I affirm.
Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Could you, Ms. Parker, first, I know you've been doing it all night, and I'm sorry to keep asking. Your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Lisa Parker, 71 and a half Boston Street. As I listen to developers, and you know this isn't my first rodeo or first time in a limo, what I'm continually hearing is like the other speaker had addressed. We have these developers that want to use the affordable guys and the monies that go along with it. What they have is prime real estate. I heard them say 1,500 feet away from the park, which 20 years from now will really be prime real estate when they no longer will be using the perks that they get from HUD and all the other places to make it market rate and not affordable. I'm not in agreement that this project should go forward for a lot of reasons. One, the washer and dryer. You want to have the same amenities that everyone else is having, which I heard the Commissioner Mumford say, that's the standard of practice now. Why are we allowing the developer to cut corners when to meet their bottom line, rather than accommodate the residents that live here and really have something affordable and sizable for families? They need to have amenities and they need to have space to live. And that's all I'm going to say on the matter. The commissioners should not approve this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. Are there any other comments from the public regarding this application? Any other comments from the public regarding this application? If so, please raise your hand. I ask you to do so now. Seeing none, council? Oh, wait a minute. I see. See a hand. That person is in, I think. The person on iPhone 5534.
Yes.
Could you raise your right hand, please?
Sure.
Do you swear or affirm the statement you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Derek Lampley, 2 Colgate Drive, Newark, New Jersey, of course, 07103.
Thank you, Mr. Lampley. Your statement for the record, please, sir.
I just want to piggyback off the two speakers that just spoke about the type of development we've been getting lately and the expectations. I think we drop the ball with the expectations. We make the room sizes smaller. We don't keep the new properties clean. So I think the planning board really need to look at the actual plan. The amenities, like Ms. Parker said, we're lacking a lot. We just building buildings, not being kept up, breaking down, not enough parking, not enough space in the unit, not affordable, no amenities. We just giving out money. So I'm just piggybacking off the two previous speakers. So I say no with this particular development.
Thank you, Mr. Lampley.
You will.
If there are no other comments, and I see no other raised hand. Is there another raised hand? Or is that Mr. Lampley? Ms. Mia?
It's the same here.
Okay. There are no raised. Daniel. Screen name Daniel. Sir, can you?
How are you doing?
I'm well. Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir, I do.
Could you state
My name is
your
my name is
address
Daniel.
and your statement for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Daniel Spalding. I live at 162nd Ave. First, like once again, I'm not new to Newark. I've been in Newark a while now, and I understand the overpopulate, and I understand the whole need of certain amenities. But to be honest, I think this is just a statement. This is just my statement. We're being very unrealistic to other two people because we're asking for the developer to give something at the end of the day and not receive, I believe, what they're supposed to receive by putting a washing machine and a dryer. They are giving a washing machine, a dryer. They are giving parking. At the end of the day, yes, would this be prime real estate later on? Yes, but how many of these people would still be living in the Newark? How many of these people would still be living inside that building? I am for the project, one, because once again, that lot is going to sit there, continuously be empty. We still have that big deficit of people that need to have affordable living. I feel as though from working in construction and by looking at the plans that were given, the apartments are a proper size. They're given more bedrooms than most of the old buildings have in that surrounding area. At the end of the day, the parking is going to be what it's going to be inside Newark because of the new people that are migrating to Newark as a city that is up and coming. At the end of the day, we do want newer buildings. We do want better things to look at the end of the day, and not just empty lots. And I understand at the end of the day that it's a give and take relationship. From what I heard from the chairman speaking, that at the end of the day, the developer still has to make and turn over some type of dollar. At the end of the day, I am for the project because it's just building Newark up at the end of the day. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other raised hands, council.
Can I just can surmise? If that's okay.
Excuse me?
My summation? That's fine. I have no additional witnesses.
I have another hand. Screen name Victor Francisco. Can you turn your screen on and unmute, please? Could you raise your hand, sir? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? You're muted.
I do, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Your name, address, and statement for the record, sir.
Victor Francisco, 752 Mount Prospect Avenue, Newark, New Jersey. I want to be in favor of the project. I just want, to Newark to be more affordable. And this is because the rent right now is too high. So to get 25 more apartment affordable, to be perfect to move the citizen of Newark forward. So if we have many buildings in this Newark who have more than 100 apartments and not have no parking, and at least this one give it at least 75% of parking to the residents in the building. So I'm in favor.
Thank you. There's another person with a raised hand, Kay Scott.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi. Could you raise your right hand, please?
Yes.
Could you turn your camera on?
Yes.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Can you give us your name, your address, and your statement for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Khadijah Scott. Address is 48 Dayton Street in North New Jersey. Just wanted to say that I do understand all of the points raised by all of the other members of the public as far as being concerned about, the spacing and things of that nature. And I do hear that the purpose of the project is for affordability. It seems like there's a lot of each program or every piece, a lot of moving pieces here, and they all have different requirements in some respects. In a perfect world, we will want where these moving pieces can all integrate and meet together to come to some type of reasonable compromise. But if The main purpose is affordability and to help increase living where, people, Newark residents can become more self-sufficient. Then I would be in favor of the project because it will bring more affordable housing. It may not be all of the amenities that, someone may have, and we shouldn't differentiate because somebody has low income housing. But when we're talking about affordability, we're talking about, clean, balanced, well, affordable living in the hopes that people can, increase in what they have and that they can eventually what they have, they can make multiply. So I think that affordable housing and affordable living is a stepping stone to help bring up living and quality of life for residents. So I will be in favor of the project, and thank you for this time.
Thank you, ma'am. Council.
Can we proceed now? Every time I start, it starts with
No.
Okay, so I want to thank you all. I know it's been a long evening, but I do think it's important for you to have heard not only from our witnesses, but as well from the community members, both positive and negative. And I do want to emphasize and clarify some misstatements that you heard through testimony. But I'd like to note that, our planner and our professionals have provided testimony and Mr. McDonough case law to support the relief that's being requested today. New Jersey courts recognize the need to balance the desire of municipalities to control local zoning with community-wide need to provide for certain uses. And thus they created this inherently beneficial use doctrine. And the courts have determined that certain uses are so universally considered to be community value that the board should be favorably disposed towards that inclusion. Inherently beneficial uses is one considered of value to the community because it fundamentally serves the public good and promotes the general welfare. And what better use here than providing quality, new, affordable housing, 100% affordable housing on a vacant, dilapidated lot. Here we have that lot. And Mr. McDonough provided his analysis that we satisfy that burden for inherently beneficial use as a professional planner. He went through that criteria. The definition in that statute is not exclusive, and in fact, low-income housing is considered inherently beneficial. It is specifically in the case law. And that test requires that there be a public interest that is served by creating affordable housing. We are creating affordable housing that does not exceed a 60% AMI. Every affordable housing project in the city of Newark extends beyond 60% AMI. They all have public subsidy. So please do not have that as a factor of consideration. That is how the affordable housing is built in the state. Adverse consequences of granting the variances. Here, we heard density, we heard unit sizes, we heard building height. Height is not in question. Unit sizes is not in question. Bedroom sizes are not in question. And the density that's being requested here, albeit not required for this specific zone, is granted by the city. The master plan and the code grants 275 square feet or less in some instances per unit in some wards throughout the city with zero parking. And here you have 100% affordable project that's providing some parking. We do have a minor deviation and variance request, but nonetheless, it's affordable. And this city has granted approvals for 250 square feet or less in some instances for market rate projects. Let's consider the conditions which might be imposed to mitigate any adverse consequences. That's part of the test. And here, through the testimony, we've offered some conditions in collaboration with the board. We've agreed to make affordability a condition of approval. We've agreed to include the stripes. We've included to put in measures for security for the entrance of the driveway. We've agreed to provide greenery and trees if we can in working with the arborist and the city planner. So those are things that we have offered in working with the city. And the last test is the balance of the public interest in granting variances versus the impact lessened by those conditions. And Mr. McDonough provided that testimony. The relief requested here is not foreign to this board. The applicant has requested variance relief that has been granted by this board repeatedly in different applications. Again, height is not in question. This lot is vacant. There are a number of multifamily structures and large buildings, albeit behind it, but this neighborhood does not have a consistent housing pattern. There are multifamilies, there are 4 stories, there are 16 stories, there are 9 stories. It is one lot in from 2nd Avenue next to a surface lot, which is really not supported in the city master plan, but it does support some other building. This overall project promotes the master plan and the goals. It provides infill housing and affordable at that. And the C variance relief that's being requested here is very common. It's side yard setbacks, it's lot coverages, it's impervious coverage, it's trees, which we've agreed to work on. And we've agreed to also satisfy and work with both engineering and water sewer to address those issues that impact the lot coverage and impervious coverage variances. So where are we? The applicant has agreed for affordability conditions as a condition should this board be inclined. The safety measures. And we will meet with the arborist and the planner. Every person in the country, in the world, deserves a decent place to live. And the applicant is delivering 100% affordable units. Regional income levels in Essex County range from 26 to 86,000. This project is going to deliver housing for persons that fall at that low range and provide them a substantial opportunity to live in brand new housing. And so we submit that the testimony provided by our architect, our engineer, our professionals serve to supplement this application. They satisfy the positive criteria by showing that there are reasons on why this site is suited, why it's inherently beneficial, and that the variance relief that we're requesting can be granted because those special conditions exist. We satisfy that test for inherently beneficial. There is no public detriment. And with that, I submit.
Thank you. We're now in discussion. We have discussion from the board. Is there discussion from the board? Commissioner Hall. You're muted.
Trying to turn on. I first want to thank the community for coming out and letting us hear how you feel. It's always helpful to me, and I know it's always helpful board. These cases aren't easy. I personally struggle a lot. In this particular case, we added over a year ago, or however long it was, and we rejected it, and they came back, and the application was different. And we heard the testimony. And the part that I want to deal with first is that 100% affordability. That's a big deal to me because people in Newark are being priced out. They're hurting. It's a fact. They need somewhere to go, and they need to be able to go to a nice place. And looking in the architecture on the inside here, this wasn't a bad thing. The apartments was, in my view, spacious. And you got the 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedrooms, all in this building. And so it becomes a balance. We don't want to let anybody as a board build anything. And certainly we don't want to stuff people into a small space. But the world isn't perfect, and this situation is not perfect. But the project brings something important, and that's that affordability element. The fact that it's not a corner lot, it might as well be. A few steps, this place will be on the corner, and it happens to be this parking lot that may be connected to the building on the other block. I don't know. If that's the case, then this becomes the building on the corner, and that's where it will be. And if that's not the case, perhaps there'll be another building next to this building. We want the very best for our residents in the city. Everybody has different income levels. Whether you're on the bottom of the scale, the middle, or the top, you deserve to live somewhere nice. And the only way that's going to happen in the city of Newark right now is affordable units. So when I balance it out at the end of the day, the fact that it's affordable, the fact that it's near the corner, the fact that the applicant has agreed to different things to go along with it, it makes me in favor of this application. And I'll also say the professional testimony outside of the parking was on point enough, gave me enough to be able to vote in favor of this application. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. Commissioner Riviera.
Well, Commissioner Hall made me think about, thank you to the community for showing up. Listening to Commissioner Hall there saying might as well be the corner lot and a corner property, and if it's not, there will be a building there probably. That's what I was trying to vision, picture what will be there, and if there won't be anything, then this is the corner property. So that's a different way to look at it. I was looking at some small details, wrote a bunch of little notes here, but looking over 2 weeks ago, we were crying about 3 bedrooms now being made in the city of Newark, and now 100% affordable. This is what's catching all of our attention. And to say that, unfortunately, we couldn't come into a different agreement of lower the unit count to please others, perhaps. However, we said it before, these apartments are a decent size. In regards to the parking, we're never going to be pleased in the city of Newark. Somebody that's not here right now, he's here, I'm guessing. David Commissar would have said that we build a city for people, not cars. And to think about 100% affordable, how many cars are the tenants really going to have? Rent-A-Way are offering a few parking spots. Looking at the other simple things here, but overall, I think if they were granted these rights to these fundings to build this project, perhaps the people funding the project, they look into the developer. Has he done anything for the city of Newark? How's he obtaining this money out of nowhere? Let's say no. I'm sure they did it. They did their homework about this person, and I'm hoping they did it right. Because I will be in favor of this project. It seems reasonable. One extra floor, right? So to make it quick because it's getting late, I will be in favor of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hardesty.
I'm not going to belabor the time. I kind of agree with my fellow commissioners. This is a rough one, and we thank the residents for coming out. Like I said, sometimes we lose sight, and I get it. There's a market for this type of housing. Sometimes we look at it and say, oh, that's too small. But I look at these studio apartments that people get that aren't big at all. And the prices that they have to pay is really ridiculous. So leaning on the side of the affordable housing, yes, we would like it if it could be affordable and it could be large, it could be affordable and everybody have a washer and dryer. I get it, but there is definitely residents that would like to live in these buildings, and we have to keep that in mind as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from the board? Further comments from the board? Affordable housing, I agree that we're in great need of affordable housing, but I have never been and will continue not to approve warehousing people just because we're meeting something called affordability. This site can't handle this many apartments. It can handle it as a conditional use. It's half the size that's required for maximum density. It can handle it even if it weren't at that larger size. It's still 100 square foot shoe. We know what happens when you put too many people on too small of a space. Yes, we have a new zoning ordinance. It did not lower that space requirement here. Didn't lower it below 500 square feet. Didn't even lower it to 275. I'm not going to warehouse people here. May I have a motion?
Chair,
Commissioner Hall.
I don't have the case number in front of me.
It's ZBA-24-05.
I make a motion to approve this application.
Is that with conditions or without?
With the
motion
conditions.
for approval with condition from Hall. May I have a second?
Second.
Second, Riviero. Call the roll, please.
Member Hall.
Yes.
Member Hardesty.
Yes.
Member Jones.
No.
Member Rivero.
Yes.
Member Cobian.
Yes.
Vice Chair Mumford.
Yes.
Chair Alfont.
No. Application passes. May I have a motion for site plan? Council, I'd ask if you would consider agreeing to preliminary conditional preliminary and conditional final site plan approval. Those conditions being, as usual, showing all the conditions you agreed to here tonight are accepted by our staff. Is that agreeable to you, Council?
Yes, it is. Thank
I have a motion for conditional preliminary and conditional final site plan approval. Motion.
Motion.
Motion, Hall, second, Riviero. Call the roll, please.
Member Hall.
Yes.
Member Hardesty.
Yes.
Member Jones.
No.
Member Rivero.
Yes.
Member Cobian.
Yes.
Vice Chair Mumford.
Yes.
Chair Alfont.
No, I want to thank all the folks that came in and congratulations, your application and conditional preliminary and conditional final site plan have been approved. Council, you have the next case?
I do. We are going to adjourn, Chairman.
Do you think that, because I was going to ask the board if you thought this would be fairly straightforward, if the board would consider hearing it. But is this a fairly straightforward?
If I can, I would say we received input from several community members that they'd like another opportunity. We've had 3 community meetings. They'd like another. We are going to agree to meet with them one additional time, just so that they feel comfortable with us, and then we can
Appreciate that. Ms. Mejia, how much time do you need to do your community meeting?
Our goal is to do it in June before the summer.
So you're looking for a July date?
Oh, that would be amazing. That would be amazing.
Really?
I would think so. I think Lisa Mitchell, Ms. Parker's online, and she's one of the individuals we're meeting with. I think we agreed that June would be the preferred date.
Ms. Parker has her hand raised. Ms. Parker, do you have something that you really have to share with us right now?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
There's been no community engagement with the homeowners. And
well, council is asking for an adjournment just for that. So that should make you happy.
And there you go. That's the first step.
Okay, great. July, it really does work for you, council?
Yeah, I think it would, yes.
Ms. Mejia?
Yes.
What do we got?
July 25th.
The day after my wife's birthday. You better get her something.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
That works for you, council?
Yes, thank you so much.
Ms. Parker, you're going to reach out to council, I'm sure, be moving forward with the community meeting. May I have a motion to adjourn this matter? And of course, council, you waive the tolling of the time.
We do. Thank you.
Move it, Chair.
Vice Chair,
Second.
and Hardesty.
Yes.
Call the roll, please.
Member Hall.
Yes.
Member Hardesty.
Yes.
Member Jones.
Yes.
Member Rivera.
Yes.
Member Cobian.
Yes.
Vice Chair Mumford.
Yes.
Chair Alfant.
Yes. Matter will be heard on July 25th. Council, please don't answer this question now, but I'm just curious, and maybe if you can present this on the 25th. Is this going to be a harm reduction center? I think it would be.
It is not. It's actually.
That's unfortunate, I think. But anyway, I'll leave.
Oh wait, I don't know. Let's define what that means. I mean, I think it's better for the clinical, the folks who are going to provide the services. But it's really a religion-based type of service, and it's a service that's been provided in the past there. So you'll hear more about it.
Sounds like it may not be a harm reduction thing, but I can send you some statutes on that. So you can see. The next thing on the agenda, and again, want to thank all the community folks for coming out. Memorialization of resolutions. Council, all orders?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have one resolution. It's ZBA-23-71, 177-179, 181-183 Central Avenue.
Are there any proposed revisions or dissents? Hearing, call the roll, please.
Member Hall.
Yes.
Member Hardesty.
Yes.
Member Jones.
Yes.
Member Rivera.
Yes.
Member Cobian.
Yes.
Vice Chair Mumford.
Yes.
Chair Alfant.
Yes. And that's it, right, Ms. Allwaters?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Next are memorialization of minutes. Is it April 25th minutes you're asking to be memorialized?
Yes, as well as terms.
May I have a motion to move it?
Second.
Second. Call the roll, please.
Member Hall.
Yes.
Member Hardesty.
Yes.
Member Jones.
Yes.
Member Rivera.
Yes.
Member Cobian.
Yes.
Vice Chair Mumford.
Yes.
Chair Alfant.
Yes. The May 2nd minutes also? Is that correct, Ms. Mejia?
Yes.
May 2nd, 2024. May I have a motion to adopt those minutes?
Motion.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Member Hall.
Yes.
Member Hardesty.
Yes.
Member Jones.
Yes.
Member Rivera.
Yes.
Member Cobian.
Yes.
Vice Chair Mumford.
Yes.
Chair Alfant.
Yes, we have may I have a motion to, unless there are any changes, and I should have been asking, hearing none for the May 7th motion, minutes. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Member Hall.
Yes.
Member Hardesty.
Yes.
Member Jones.
Yes.
Member Rivera.
Yes.
Member Cobian.
Yes.
Vice Chair Mumford.
Yes.
Chair Alfant.
Yes, Commissioner Hardesty.
Yes. So first I want to say our professionals do an amazing job, and both our secretaries have been amazing. Look at all our minutes. We're almost caught up to the moment. I just want to ask, can you rotate the order? I asked that before of calling for the vote, please. Me and Mr. Hall have been leading the way for ever. Can we mix that up?
You guys are vanguard. You guys are our vanguard.
No, we. So I would appreciate that if you could
that's
just remember to rotate.
that is required by statute. As long as the chair is last. Commissioner Jones.
I always thought that it was called by last name alphabetical order.
No,
No?
it's supposed to, under the statute, it's supposed to rotate with the chair being last.
I thought Miss Mejia disliked me. That's what she always told me.
You're
And
the
then when
vanguard.
you're not here, I don't mind following you, but when you're not here, then I'm on the hot seat. So I'm just saying, you
It's
know,
a
we're
tough
supposed to
seat.
be
It is a tough seat. I agree.
We only put the best up there.
Thank you. Thank you for
We
that.
only put the best up there.
Can we hook up tomorrow? Can we call each other tomorrow, please?
Is there a meeting tomorrow?
Not to my knowledge, but we need to take care of the second floor.
You and me.
Mr. Mumford, this is Nana speaking. You took the words right out of my mouth. As usual, my last announcement for the end of year meeting is regarding the second board.
So let me say, and let's turn the recording off.
Recording stopped.